Chapter 1460, A Hint of Threat. Outside the black hole. Di Yuan silently appeared behind Lin Dong. His right hand quickly struck out as if it was a sharp sword, directly piercing through his back and stabbing Lin Dong through the heart. In fact, at this time, Di Yuan was not in a very good state. The Heavenly Emperor-level flesh body had long been completely broken through the defense, with multiple breaks and every wound was deep enough to see the bone. It was enough to see that Lin Dong's detachment self-detonation had still caused a considerable amount of damage to Emperor Yuan. Coupled with the fact that the injuries sustained from the battle with the Mother Emperor of the overwhelming armament clan had not yet healed, Emperor Yuan had also reached the end of his strong bow. The two serious injuries were both caused by the self-detonation. Only an attack of this level could truly injure Di Yuan. Although he was seriously injured, a smile appeared on Di Yuan's face. He had captured Lin Dong. What was the harm in suffering a few injuries? Even if the old injuries did not heal and new ones were added, Emperor Yuan did not care. With the strength of a Heavenly Emperor-level flesh body, it would not take long to recover. After capturing Lin Dong, everything was over. Just as Emperor Yuan was about to waste Lin Dong, suddenly, he felt a pain in his heart. Looking down, he looked. A red sword tip appeared in front of his chest. At the same time, Di Yuan also sensed an abnormality. No! This was not Lin Dong's original body. Just now, he was too excited, so he did not notice at first that what he had grabbed was actually a doppelganger. Lin Dong, who had been penetrated from the back by Di Yuan, slowly turned around and revealed a bizarre smile at Di Yuan. Di Yuan, you fell for it. After saying that, he just disappeared out of thin air in front of Di Yuan's eyes. Sure enough, it was a doppelganger. Di Yuan's fists clenched as his heart raged to the extreme. He himself, a Heavenly Emperor-level powerhouse, was actually being teased by a tiny half-step Heavenly Emperor? To also be injured so badly, this was simply an insult to him and to the Heavenly Emperor rank. Disregarding the sword in front of his chest, Di Yuan forcefully twisted his body. During this process, Lin Dong quickly drew his sword and stepped back, maintaining a safe distance from Di Yuan. Lin Dong was still satisfied with the plan he had just made. It also verified the speculation in his heart. The evil-expelling sword could indeed cut down everything under the sky. Even the flesh of a Heavenly Emperor level could be chopped as usual. It only required the use of the Pyrrhic sword's main body to do so. The sword blade that was chopped out did not have that kind of power and effect. Just now, while wielding the evil-preventing sword to stab into Emperor Yuan's body, Lin Dong could not feel any obstruction and easily stabbed in. If it was an ordinary treasure, it would not have been possible to penetrate Di Yuan's Heavenly Emperor-level flesh body so easily. It might not even be able to break through the skin. This was the evil-breaking sword that could cut through everything under the sun. Even compared to the three great divine weapons, it was not inferior at all. If the system produces a good product, it will be a good product. Regardless of whether it was the splitting technique or the evil-preventing sword, it was all heaven-defying. Lin Dong, your strength has surprised me. Since achieving the Heavenly Emperor level, this is the second time that I have been so severely injured. Even when the Mother Emperor of the Ultra Armament clan used the treasures bestowed by the great powers, she was unable to injure me like this, and in the end, she had to detonate the energy that the Ultra Armament clan had saved up over countless years before she could seriously injure me, and you, just by virtue of your strength of being a half-step at the Heavenly Emperor level, you have managed to do that. Terrific. Truly remarkable. Emperor Yuan's tone of voice appeared calm as he spoke. However, from his clenched fists, one could tell that his mood was not as calm as it appeared. A Heavenly Emperor-level powerhouse was injured to this extent by Lin Dong, a half-step Heavenly Emperor. Let alone the Spirit Lan region. Even if all the civilizations in the universe were added together, I am afraid that they would not be able to find a second one. Lin Dong could be said to have created history. Of course, Di Yuan had also created the precedent of a Heavenly Emperor level being seriously injured by a half-step Heavenly Emperor. Thank you for the compliment. Di Yuan, I didn't want to make a scene like this, but unfortunately, you didn't leave when I told you to. What can I do then? If you want to kill me, I have to resist. Waiting for death is not my character, Lin Dong. A rabbit is anxious, let alone a human being. Don't you think so? Lin Dong stood with his sword. Di Yuan did not know what a rabbit was. However, from Lin Dong's words, he could infer that a rabbit was probably a creature that was a little stronger than a mole cricket. Since you know that Empyrean is my obsession, you should know that it is impossible for me to leave the spirit land domain without obtaining her, otherwise, under the influence of my heart demon, it will be almost impossible for me to achieve above the Emperor realm. Then there's no way. I'm not going to give you the Empyrean fight. Di Yuan, don't tell me that this is the extent of a titanic heavenly emperor level powerhouse? Lin Dong's sword pointed at Di Yuan as a stern aura came over him. This aura was weak in front of the heavenly emperor level Di Yuan. However, in this weak aura, Emperor Yuan felt a hint of threat. It was contradictory, but it was real. With a little thought, Emperor Yuan found the problem. The one who brought him a threat was not the half-step heavenly emperor level Lin Dong, but the sword in Lin Dong's hand. This sword had just managed to effortlessly pierce through his own heavenly emperor level flesh, so it was bound to be no ordinary item. Moreover, there was still a vague burning sensation at the wound even now. A mysterious force was preventing the wound from healing. Di Yuan guessed in his heart that the red longsword in Lin Dong's hand was feared to be another weapon that could only be refined by a great power above the Emperor realm. Otherwise, it was simply impossible to easily pierce through his heavenly Emperor level flesh and still prevent it from recovering on its own. After becoming a heavenly Emperor level powerhouse, Emperor Yuan had encountered treasures held by great powers in both of his great battles, and he didn't know whether it was good or bad luck. In the face of the agitation and provocation, Emperor Yuan did not fight the other party at the first opportunity to right himself. Instead, he stared at the red longsword in Lin Dong's hand and asked, "Lin Dong, where did you get the sword in your hand?" "It? Of course I refined it." Lin Dong glanced at the evil-preventing sword and returned, "Impossible. You are just a half-step heavenly emperor, there is no way you could have refined such a divine weapon." Di Yuan immediately questioned loudly. He did not believe that what Lin Dong said was true. How could a mere half-step heavenly emperor refine a weapon that could easily pierce through him? Di Yuan would rather believe that Lin Dong had obtained it from some relic or had once encountered a great power and was bestowed with it by the other party, rather than believing that Lin Dong could refine it himself. Love to believe it or not. So what if I refined it? So what if I didn't refine it? What difference does it make? All you need to know is that it is in my hands. Lin Dong said casually. He did not understand why Di Yuan would focus on such a boring issue. Could it be that he was stalling for time? Of course there is a difference. This sword is a great power level treasure. You, a half-step heavenly emperor, actually said that you refined it yourself? You're not afraid of people laughing your ass off if you spread it out. Hey! Di Yuan, are you still fighting or not? Don't think that I don't know your purpose. Isn't it just to stall for time so that a heavenly emperor level flesh body can recover on its own? Delusional. The injuries caused by the sword of Pyrrhic evil are not that easy to recover from, even for a heavenly emperor level fleshly body. Chapter 1461 Thunder God Hammer showing off its power. Lin Dong's words were naturally known to Emperor Yuan. The injuries caused by the other party's split body's self-detonation were all recovering quickly. However, the injuries from the sword just now were not making much progress. There was a mysterious force that was secretly preventing the injuries from recovering. Di Yuan sighed in his heart. What a good evil-preventing sword. If this sword could fall into his own hands, it could definitely help him to add wings to his tiger and double his battle power. What a good Lin Dong. For a mere half-step heavenly emperor level to possess both the split body technique and the evil-preventing sword, which were two heaven-defying secret techniques and treasures, it was not surprising that he could resist the heavenly emperor level. Just as Di Yuan froze, Lin Dong launched an attack. He did not want to give Di Yuan another chance to recover from his injuries. With the evil-preventing sword in his hand, he swung out. A red sword blade chopped towards Di Yuan. At the same time, there were several more detachments that surrounded Di Yuan. It was not that Lin Dong did not want to split a few more. Rather, he could only maneuver so many. Exploding dozens of his own doppelgangers did not cause much damage to Lin Dong's mental power. He was also nearing the point of exhaustion. A quick battle must be fought. Drive Emperor Yuan out of the Spirit Lan domain. Boom boom boom. As Di Yuan avoided the sword blade, Lin Dong's doppelganger leaned over again, followed by several loud booms. Facing Lin Dong's bilocation self-explosion technique, there was little that Di Yuan could do. This move was so powerful and had a wide range of ripples that he could not escape even if he wanted to. The only thing that could be done was to try to avoid the center point of the explosion. If he was surrounded by dozens of doppelgangers again and was at the center of the self-explosion, Di Yuan even had the feeling that he might not make it through. If a Heavenly Emperor level powerhouse died at the hands of a half-step Heavenly Emperor, that would be a real laugh. After surviving the self-destruction of a few of his doppelgangers, Lin Dong did not pursue, allowing Emperor Yuan to detect Lin Dong's weakness. It seemed that the other party was also at the end of his strength. This discovery immediately caused Di Yuan to raise his spirit. Once Lin Dong lost his detachment guard, even if he was already heavily injured, it would still be no problem to take down the opponent. Emperor Yan exerted all his strength and forced his way out of the black hole, quickly approaching Lin Dong's main body. As for Lin Dong, it seemed that he was no longer capable of continuing to summon his doppelganger, and could only keep swinging out a sword blade to stop Emperor Abyss. Pffffffffff. The sword-ons chopped at Emperor Abyss with muffled sounds. Due to Di Yuan's defense being broken, his Heavenly Emperor-level flesh body was no longer able to completely block Lin Dong's swordmans. Each sword main was able to chop into Di Yuan's flesh and skin. Even if it could not injure the root, it could still cause him to feel intense pain. Di Yuan gritted his teeth and endured the intense pain in his body as he rushed towards Lin Dong regardless. He had suffered this kind of pain sensation when he fought with the Mother Emperor of the Ultra Armament clan. At that time, his flesh had also been pierced with countless bloody holes by the treasures bestowed by the great powers. It was even worse than it was now. Seeing the distance between the two sides getting closer and closer, a frantic look appeared on Di Yuan's face. He was thinking about how he should torture the other party when he captured Lin Dong in order to relieve his heartfelt hatred. Being injured like this by a half-step Heavenly Emperor level, Emperor Yuan felt that he had lost the face of the Heavenly Emperor level. Ha ha ha. Lin Dong, what's wrong with you? Keep summoning the split body to explode itself. Why are you suddenly unable to do so? It turns out that you also have times when you are exhausted? I thought that you could really summon an unlimited number of doppelgangers? Without the help of your bilocation, I'll see how far you can escape. Di Yuan laughed maniacally. Lin Dong did not make a sound at his words. He only grimaced as he swung out sword after sword. Lin Dong, don't worry. I will not kill you immediately. I will slowly torture you, so that you can properly experience what it is like to be worse than death once, and all these injuries that you have given me, I will return them to you tenfold and 100-fold. I want you to see with your own eyes that Emperor Ji is possessed by me, and I'm going to completely destroy the Spirit Lan domain, so that the Spirit Lan domain will be devastated by life and death. All of this is because you guys brought this on yourselves. Emperor Yuan approached while stimulating Lin Dong. At the same time, he was also venting the anger in his heart. This battle had been going on from the beginning until now. It could be said that it had been suppressed by Lin Dong. It was so hard to be able to move back into the situation. Of course, he had to vent his anger. If he did not have a strong physical body at the Heavenly Emperor level, there would have been no dregs left. It was as if Emperor Yuan had already won. Lin Dong, who did not have his detachment, was indeed not in his eyes. It was the same even with the evil preventing sword. Since there was no more detachment blocking him, the distance between the two sides was already very close. At this time, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Di Yuan and blocked his path. Emperor Yuan first froze for a moment, and when he saw that there was only one doppelganger, he smiled. Then he crushed through horizontally. Nowadays, a bilocation had long since been unappreciated by him. Even if he blew himself up, it would only aggravate his injuries a little, and he wouldn't be able to die yet. If he could not die, then the one who would die would be Lin Dong. However, this time Lin Dong's doppelganger did not self-detonate, but instead rushed over to meet Emperor Yuan. When the two sides were about to come into contact, a large hammer emitting a blue halo appeared in the hands of the doppelganger. With all his strength, he slammed the hammer at Emperor Yuan. This was no ordinary hammer. Rather, it was the Thunder God hammer that Lin Dong had bought from the Star Void Realm auction. It was also one of the 3 divine artifacts required for the system's ultimate evolution. Since it could be called a divine weapon by the system, the power certainly could not be underestimated. Lin Dong had not really used the Thunder God hammer since he obtained it. It was mainly because he had not encountered any powerful enemies. Now that he had encountered the strongest enemy in his life, Lin Dong was also using every means at his disposal to deal with it. The Thunder God Hammer also came in handy. Boom! There was a loud bang. Emperor Abyss and Lin Dong's doppelganger were in a state of mutual hedging, and the power of crashing together could be imagined. When Di Yuan's incomparably confident Heavenly Emperor-level flesh body collided with the sledgehammer, it was expected to bounce it out. Instead, it turned out to be something he hadn't expected. Emperor Yuan only felt a massive force acting on his body. His body was actually flying backwards? His mind was buzzing in blank. Put! The violent shock caused Di Yuan to spit out a mouthful of blood. One must know that he had withstood dozens of half-step Heavenly Emperor-level detachments exploding themselves without ever spitting out blood. Just now, with this collision, he actually spat out blood? Both sides collided violently. Emperor Yuan was knocked into a constant retreat. The bilocation holding the Thunder God Hammer directly disappeared. With such a huge impact force, a half-step Heavenly Emperor-level doppelganger was simply unable to withstand it. The Thunder God Hammer also flew backward and landed in Lin Dong's main body's hands. A moment later. It was only then that Emperor Yuan came back to his senses. The body that was already close to Lin Dong was pulled away again. Trying to catch Lin Dong had become an extravagant hope again. Coupled with this collision, the injuries to his body were once again aggravated quite a bit, and grief and anger instantly filled Di Yuan's entire body. It caused him to roar angrily in his heart. Why? Why is this? Why is he still being suppressed by a half-step Heavenly Emperor when he has become a Heavenly Emperor level? However, things didn't end there. A golden light flashed. Emperor Yuan's body was once again pierced through. Chapter 1462, No More Fighting. The dizziness created by Di Yuan's collision with the Thunder God Hammer hadn't yet ended when his body once again suffered a heavy blow. A golden light pierced through his body. The broken body, which was already severely injured, was once again wounded, and it had reached the limit of what Di Yuan could bear, injuring his foundation. If he didn't find a place to treat it again, even a Heavenly Emperor-level flesh body would be left with very serious aftereffects in the future. It might even result in a lifelong inability to advance an inch. This was something that Di Yuan could not accept no matter what. He had never expected it. The injuries he received this time around were even more severe than the injuries he received the last time he fought with the Mother Emperor of the Ultra Armament clan. Both times, he was injured at the hands of a half-step Heavenly Emperor level. It made Di Yuan question his own strength at the Heavenly Emperor level. The Mother Emperor of the Ultra Armament clan was fine, after all, she had paid the price of her life. However, the Lin Dong in front of him was still standing there alive, and he himself was seriously injured. Moreover, from the beginning to the end, he had not injured Lin Dong's main body for a single moment. The entire time he was fighting with his doppelganger. He was completely suppressed to death by the other party. A Heavenly Emperor-level powerhouse was suppressed by a half-step Heavenly Emperor? I'm afraid no one would believe it if it was said out loud. Yet the truth happened just like that. Di Yuan raised his head and looked in the direction of the last attack. One could only see one of Lin Dong's doppelgangers, holding a golden bow in his hand, aiming it right at himself. Another weapon that could easily injure himself. Di Yuan was already feeling numb. From the sword of evil destruction, to the sledgehammer that could knock him away, to that powerful golden bow and arrow. All three weapons could easily injure his Heavenly Emperor-level flesh. Emperor Yuan was somewhat skeptical. Had this brat Lin Dong intruded into the graveyard of some great powerhouse? Secret techniques, divine weapons, one after another. If these things could be possessed by himself, he would definitely be able to increase his combat power by a large margin. Unfortunately, Di Yuan knew it was hopeless today. He did not dare to continue fighting with Lin Dong. Not to mention what the outcome would be. Even if he was able to eventually kill Lin Dong with everything he had, he himself would also suffer irreparable damage. The consequences were something that Di Yuan could not bear. Di Yuan, how does this Thunder God Hammer and Sun shooting bow of mine feel? I wonder if it is satisfactory. Lin Dong lightly laughed. With his cautious character, how could he possibly expose his main body in front of Di Yuan? From the very beginning, it was planned. Use the doppelganger to attract Di Yuan to appear. Then, he would leave behind 2 more doppelgangers to secretly use the Thunder God Hammer and the Sun Shooting Bow to attack Emperor Yuan. Both of these 2 divine artifacts had the vast majority of their power sealed when Lin Dong obtained them. After being obtained by him, he utilized the system to unseal a portion of their seals, restoring some of the divine weapon elegance. The effect was obvious. Regardless of whether it was the Thunder God Hammer or the Shooting Sun Bow, after unsealing a portion of it, it was able to easily injure Emperor Yuan's Heavenly Emperor-level physical body. It was indeed worthy of the name of a divine weapon. Lin Dong, it is me who underestimated you. I originally thought that a mere half-step Heavenly Emperor would not be able to turn over any waves, but I did not expect that I would have overturned the boat in the gutter. Lin Dong, with your battle power, even if we look at the entire universe, you can be called the strongest half-step Heavenly Emperor. Emperor Yuan sighed. After his body suffered a heavy blow, Emperor Yuan also regained his calm disposition. Any more berserkness and the body would be ruined. I'm flattered. To be honest, Di Yuan, I actually didn't expect you to be able to force me to use all of my cards. Although you're at the Heavenly Emperor level, you're only at the beginning of the Heavenly Emperor level. According to my expectations, you shouldn't be able to hold out against dozens of my doppelgangers blowing themselves up. As it turns out, not only did you hold out, but you still have some strength left. Heavenly Emperor level powerhouses are indeed not to be underestimated, and it's also a wake-up call for me to not be cocky in the future, or else if I don't pay a little bit of attention, I will not be arrogant in the future. Otherwise, if I am not careful, I may die. If Lin Dong's words were to be spread out, they would definitely cause a violent stir in all sectors of the universe. A single mouthful of spittle from one person would be able to drown him. This was because the meaning expressed in Lin Dong's words was very clear. A mere early stage of the Heavenly Emperor level was simply not worth using his full arsenal of cards. How dare a half-step Heavenly Emperor look down on a true Heavenly Emperor level powerhouse? No matter where this matter was placed, no one would believe it. Even if you were an incipient Heavenly Emperor, it was not something that you, a half-step Heavenly Emperor, could talk about. When Di Yuan heard Lin Dong's words, although he was indignant in his heart, however, he also knew the other party was right. If he did not have a huge increase in his attack and defense after his berserk, he would not have been able to withstand dozens of split self-destructs with only his strength of a first-time half-step Heavenly Emperor level. The power of a single half-step Heavenly Emperor level self-detonation was astonishing, let alone dozens of consecutive self-detonations. Lin Dong, today's matter will end here. But don't be too happy, soon I will be back. I hope that you will be ready by then. We will then split the difference and see if you, the number 1 half-step Heavenly Emperor in the universe, can create the myth of killing a Heavenly Emperor level or not. If not, then I am sorry, I won't be giving you another chance to grow. I will definitely be able to execute you the next time. Di Yuan prepared to leave and find a place to heal his injuries first. It had to be healed before he could leave the gate. This time, if not for the fact that the injuries he sustained from fighting with the Mother Emperor of the Ultra Armament clan had not fully healed, he would have definitely been able to kill Lin Dong. It was a pity that he knew too late. Alas! Di Yuan, why are you doing this? Is it really good to fight and kill? As the saying goes, it's better to resolve grievances than to tie them up. Besides, there's no deep hatred between us, so there's no need to divide us into a fight. In today's battle we have all realized the strength of the other party. No matter who dies between us, those who are alive will not fare well. Di Yuan, going to explore a wider universe is what you should do. Don't limit yourself to the Spirit Lan domain. Lin Dong persuaded bitterly. In fact, the moment he heard Di Yuan say that today's matter was to be left at that, he had already completely put his heart down. As for Di Yuan saying that he would not give himself a chance next time? Just kidding. If Di Yuan really dared to come next time, he wouldn't mind leaving him behind completely. The question of being able to do so was completely out of Lin Dong's consideration. Di Yuan could not even kill him when he was still at the half-step Heavenly Emperor level, let alone after he stepped into the Heavenly Emperor level. The Divine Magnificence points were still more than 1,000,000 points short of raising his physique. With Lin Dong's current strength and status, it was a matter of a single word. There were plenty of people who would send him treasures. When the time comes, he will pay the money. Wouldn't the Divine Magnificence points come? It would have been possible to do this before. It was only that Lin Dong had not paid enough attention to Di Yuan, thinking that the other party had just stepped into the Heavenly Emperor level, and that his own half-step Heavenly Emperor level strength, coupled with the 6th order split technique, was completely sufficient. Only then did he give Di Yuan a chance. Otherwise, if Lin Dong had paid even a little more attention to Di Yuan at that time, this battle would not have been so difficult. In the end, it was still Lin Dong who had drifted a little. All along the way, he had almost always traveled smoothly and had not experienced any setbacks. Chapter 1463, A Word. Lin Dong, cut the crap. Di Yuan, don't need you to teach me how to do things, and we have the hatred of taking my wife, isn't that a big grudge? Your life, I will take it. There is also DG, after I get her, I will completely resolve this heart demon, and from now on, there will be no more ties. The universe is so big that it will be left to me, Di Yuan, to swim proudly. Ha ha ha. Di Yuan said and burst into laughter. Lin Dong shook his head helplessly at his words. Since there is a way to heaven that you are not going, then go to hell. Next time, he would definitely let Di Yuan have no return. Di Yuan, Lin Dong, have always been a person who does not offend me. I do not offend you. If you want to take my life, you have to be prepared to be killed by me in return. Moreover, you do not have any relationship with Empress Ji. It is all just wishful thinking on your part. Where does the hatred of taking my wife come from? You still want to kill me back? Lin Dong, I am not afraid to tell you, this time it is because I have not yet recovered from my old injuries that you have exploited the loophole. Next time you won't have the chance. If you hadn't appeared, it wouldn't have taken long for Emperor and Ji to agree to be my Taoist couple. Everything is because of you. You are the culprit. Di Yuan said as his emotions began to flare up again. Originally, their Spirit Land 5 emperors were living a good life. Everything was going in the right direction. First, the Ultra Armament clan and the Soul Eaters came to cause trouble, and then Lin Dong came to destroy his and DG's relationship. This led to a series of things that followed, all of which developed in an uncontrollable direction. He, Di Yuan, was the true victim. However, the end result was that everyone stood against him. Suit yourself. Anyways, you have to think clearly. The next time you come back to the Spirit Land domain to cause trouble, I will kill you. The killing intent in Lin Dong's eyes flickered as he finished speaking. Ha ha ha. Just you? A mere half-step heavenly emperor is threatening me? If you can kill me, why don't you do it now? I'm afraid you've reached your limit as well. Lin Dong, you think too highly of yourself. Even with the 3 divine artifacts in your hand and a heaven-defying technique like the split art, you are still only a half-step heavenly emperor level in the end. If I wasn't afraid that the injuries on my body would affect my advancement in the future, I would be able to kill you right now. Di Yuan laughed out loud. Di Yuan, your guess is right, I have indeed reached my limit, but I am afraid that you cannot do it yet if you want to kill me. Of course you can gamble everything to try, after all, this is your last and best chance. If you miss it, you will not have it again. Lin Dong, I have said that I will call it quits today. I won't make any more moves, so live your life to the fullest. Enjoy your last moments. When I return from my healing, it will be the time of your death. Before that, you can act like a shrunken head turtle and escape early. Only then, the Spirit Land domain will cease to exist under my wrath and completely disappear into the universe. It's up to you to choose. Di Yuan threatened. He was afraid that Lin Dong would leave the Spirit Land domain early. At that time, the universe was so large, where would one find him? Once Lin Dong had broken through to the Heavenly Emperor level, it would be truly terrifying to the extreme. The 3 divine weapons, coupled with the heaven-defying splitting technique. The moment he appeared, he would have dozens of Heavenly Emperor-level doppelgangers. You can still explode yourself if you can't beat them? Other than a great power, who could contend with him? It could be said that as long as Lin Dong broke through to the Heavenly Emperor level, he would be an almost invincible existence amongst Heavenly Emperor-level powerhouses. Even the peak of the Heavenly Emperor rank would have to drink hatred when they encountered him. Therefore, Lin Dong must be snuffed out before he achieved the Heavenly Emperor rank. Otherwise there would be no one to restrain him. The only way to do so was to threaten Lin Dong with the entire living beings of the Spirit Land domain. I will wait for you. Lin Dong only returned 3 simple words. Good. Then we will meet again later. I hope you don't run away when the time comes. After Di Yuan finished speaking, he gave Lin Dong a deep look as if he wanted to remember this person before his body transformed into dots of starlight and disappeared. Lin Dong remained standing in place without moving. Only after he sensed that Di Yuan had indeed left did he let out a long breath. Phew! The doppelganger holding the shooting sunbow dissipated, and the shooting sunbow automatically fell into his hands and was put away along with the thunder god hammer and the evil breaking sword. Then Lin Dong's entire body looked as if he had lost his essence, and he could barely even stand. The pain that tore through his brain came It caused him to gasp for air. Just now, he was merely forcing his composure. This battle was definitely the toughest and most treacherous battle he had ever experienced. It seemed like he was suppressing Emperor Yuan the entire time. The other party hadn't even touched his main body. However, the ferocity of it was only known to Lin Dong, the person involved. That was a true Heavenly Emperor-level powerhouse. And after going berserk, his battle power was already close to the peak of the Heavenly Emperor rank. When fighting with such a peerless powerhouse, the slightest inattention would result in very serious consequences. Lin Dong did not dare to allow Emperor Yuan to come close to him. His advantage lay in the number of his doppelgangers, and if quality failed, he would win with quantity. It was good that it succeeded. Although he did not win, he did not lose either, and this was the best ending. The exterior of his body appeared to have no injuries at all. However, the spiritual energy was already in tatters. After detonating dozens of doppelgangers, Lin Dong's mental damage was so severe that all he wanted to do now was to sleep and recuperate. However, it was not possible here. Who could guarantee that Di Yuan would not go and return? Lin Dong dragged his tired body away. While walking, he summarized the gains and losses of this battle. Ugh! Careless! Lin Dong sighed helplessly. Who would have thought that Di Yuan had just stepped into the Heavenly Emperor rank and his battle power could reach a level close to the peak of the Heavenly Emperor rank? This was something that Lin Dong had not anticipated at all. Otherwise, he definitely would not have fought with a half-step Heavenly Emperor level strength. He would definitely find a way to break through his physique to the Heavenly Emperor level before doing so. There was only a difference of more than 1,000,000 Divine Magnificence points before his physique broke through to the Heavenly Emperor level. With Lin Dong's current status, would it not be easy to get them? Regardless of whether it was the Spirit Cage Realm or the Spirit Lan Domain, it was all just a matter of words. There was also no need to fear the issue of being exposed or not. So what if it is exposed? So what if he is not exposed? Who else could do anything to him? It was because he hadn't paid enough attention to Di Yuan that had caused this battle to be fought so hard. Originally, he had thought that over-level challenges were exclusive to him. Lin Dong, but it turned out that other people, Emperor Yuan, could also. The strength of an early Heavenly Emperor level was hardened to near the peak of the Heavenly Emperor level. At the same time, Lin Dong was somewhat fortunate. Fortunately, he had quite a few means. Otherwise, there was a real possibility that he could be planted in the hands of Di Yuan. It was clear that he could have become stronger. However, he lost due to carelessness, resulting in his death and also involving the other people of the Spirit Lan Domain. That would be too wrong. Lin Dong would not be that foolish next. After resting well, he would first raise his strength. Physique breaking through the Heavenly Emperor level was no longer his goal. It was necessary to raise his strength to the limit. That is to say, both his physical physique and mental strength had to reach the 10th rank of the Heavenly Emperor grade, and his split body technique had to be raised by another rank as well before he could do so. This was the limit of Lin Dong's current combat power that he could achieve. As for how the Divine Magnificence points came about? With today's him, it was still not a matter of a single word. Chapter 1464, Dormant. Lin Dong rapidly advanced aimlessly through the void. He only wanted to leave the place where he was fighting with Di Yuan. The further away the better, lest the other party would suddenly kill him back. Although the possibility of this was slim to none. After all, the injuries that Di Yuan had sustained were also very heavy. If it wasn't dealt with in time, it would leave serious aftereffects. For Di Yuan, he had powerful ambitions and could not possibly accept such an outcome. Therefore, he would definitely quickly find a place to recuperate from his injuries before killing his way back to seek revenge. However, even with this, Lin Dong had to be on guard. He would not allow the slightest possibility of this happening. As time passed, when his spirit relaxed, Lin Dong felt that he could not hold on any longer. Thus, he sent a transmission over to Di Jiang. Elder Di Jiang, Di Yuan has already left the Spirit Lan Domain with serious injuries and will not appear in a short period of time. I also need to find a place to recuperate, please do not worry. After reporting his piece to Di Jiang, Lin Dong completely closed his eyes. His spiritual energy was in dormant recovery while his body floated in the void. Floating wherever he could. With Lin Dong's half-step Heavenly Emperor level fleshly body, as long as he did not encounter an Emperor realm powerhouse, other people basically could not even break through his fleshly defense. There would be no need to worry about being discovered. This was because even if someone found out, they would not be able to injure him. There were only a few Emperor Realm powerhouses in the entire Spirit Land domain. Emperor Jiang and the others were still with Lin Dong. As long as he was not discovered by Di Yuan, everything would not be a problem. It would not take long for the mental dormancy to end and he would be able to awaken. A very distant distance away from Lin Dong, Emperor Jiang and the others were gathering together, quietly waiting for the outcome of the battle between Lin Dong and Emperor Yuan. Although the four of them could not see anything on the surface, they were all extremely nervous in their hearts. The outcome of this battle would not only determine their lives, but would also determine the fate of the entire Spirit Land domain. If Lin Dong won, then everything would remain the same. Everyone could still live peacefully in the Spirit Land domain. If Emperor Yuan won, the nightmare that belonged to the Spirit Land domain was coming. How many living beings would survive in the end was anyone's guess. Perhaps from now on, the Spirit Land domain will cease to exist. Of course, there is another possibility. That was that Lin Dong and Di Yuan would both lose. This outcome was not good, but it was not bad either. At least it would leave everyone some time to prepare. Ding bell. A sudden sound appeared, instantly waking up the four of them. When Emperor Jiang took a look, it was his own communicator. When he saw that it was from Lin Dong, his eyes shrank and he quickly clicked on it. With that, the voice transmitted by Lin Dong entered the ears of the four. Elder Di Jiang, Di Yuan has already left the Spirit Land domain with serious injuries and will not appear in a short period of time. I will also find a place to recuperate, please do not worry. Hearing this voice, Emperor Jiang and the others let out a long sigh of relief almost simultaneously. Hobo ho ho ho. They had finally waited for a relatively acceptable result. Di Yuan had left injured and should have gone to recuperate. Lin Dong also looked like he had suffered a considerable amount of injuries. Then the result of this battle was a lose-lose situation. Elder Di Jiang quickly asked Lin Dong where he is now and if he is seriously injured. Does he need any help? I will go find him now. Emperor Yanji said worriedly from the side. Alright, I'll ask him. Di Jiang returned to Lin Dong as soon as he finished speaking, asking about his status as well as his location. As a result, he did not wait for a response for a while. DG, you don't need to worry. Since Lin Dong sent a transmission, he must still be alive. With his current half-step Heavenly Emperor level strength, as long as he doesn't die, he will be able to recover, so let's not disturb him and just wait patiently. Emperor Jiang comforted. N. Elder Emperor lecture, I know, don't worry. I am fine, I have confidence in Lin Dong. DG nodded her head. She actually wanted to go and find Lin Dong. In the end, this matter was still caused by her, causing Di Yuan to hate her out of love, which led to such a result. Di Yuan treated her well, DG had always known that. She had even gone so far as to spare her serious injuries to exterminate the Ultra Armament clan, but she was also avenging her. But for Di Yuan, Emperor Yanji really didn't have that kind of feeling. Even better, she was merely touched. Being touched was not a feeling. The two could not be confused. But there was one thing that Emperor Yuan was right about. That was that after such a long time of his efforts, Emperor Yanji had finally begun to slowly sensitize. With some more time, perhaps the two would be able to form a Dao couple. However, at this time, Lin Dong appeared in DG's life. When her soul was damaged and she had turned into a little Ma, he had been accompanying her around, almost inseparable every day, leaving a bright red mark on the depths of DG's heart. DG knew clearly. The feeling that Lin Dong gave her was the feeling that she wanted. This was something that Di Yuan could never give. Elder Di Jiang, who exactly is Lin Dong? Where did he come from? It is fine for him to have half-step Heavenly Emperor level strength, we can all accept that, but he was actually able to cross the level and lose to the Heavenly Emperor level Di Yuan? One must know that although Di Yuan has just stepped into the Heavenly Emperor level not long ago, but after he storms out, his strength will increase by a large margin, far exceeding the early stages of the Heavenly Emperor level. It is simply unimaginable that Lin Dong was able to cross such a large chasm to seriously injure Di Yuan. Di Yao could not help but ask from the side. Hearing the question posed by Di Yao, Emperor Shan also became interested. This was also what he wanted to know. The fact that Lin Dong had half-step Heavenly Emperor level strength at such a young age was already shocking enough. As a result, he did not expect him to be able to fight across levels. And the level crossed was not even an ordinary level. Who did not know that there was an insurmountable gap between the half-step Heavenly Emperor level and the true Heavenly Emperor level? However, he, Lin Dong, had managed to break everyone's perception and crossed over with ease. Lin Dong was encountered by the Empress after she entered the spirit cage realm after her soul was damaged. Both times that the Empress had her soul damaged, it was thanks to Lin Dong's help that she was able to recover so quickly. As for where he came from, you guys don't need to ask too many questions, it wasn't the spirit Lan domain anyway. Emperor Jiang explained. What is Lin Dong, a half-step Heavenly Emperor level superpower, doing in the spirit cage realm? Isn't the spirit cage realm only helpful to souls below the Emperor realm? That I am not sure about. Anyway, it was in the spirit cage realm that Emperor Ji met him, which led to the series of things that happened later on. After Emperor infused his dual personalities, he is like a time bomb that could detonate at any time. Even if it doesn't explode right now, it will explode one day, causing the spirit Lan domain to be plagued with people and souls, and according to my guess, Lin Dong's fate left the spirit Lan domain with a glimmer of hope for survival. So Lin Dong is the savior sent by the heavenly Tao to save the spirit Lan domain? It can also be understood in this way. Emperor Jiang nodded. Both Emperor Yao and Emperor Shun revealed a look of realization. Since he was the savior sent by the heavenly Tao, it was not difficult to understand why Lin Dong was so strong. This is the end of the matter, so everyone should go back and continue to recuperate. Especially DG, you have just succeeded in remodeling your physical body and have experienced the baptism of heavenly tribulation. You need time to adapt to your new body. At the same time, we also need to be prepared. Di Yuan may return at any time. Although we cannot help Lin Dong much, we still need to do a good job of making good the aftermath of the incident for him. Understood. The three of Empyrean replied at the same time. Chapter 1465, Landing. Time was rapidly passing. In the blink of an eye, it was already 3 years later. The spirit Lan domain was still as calm as ever. Di Yuan had not appeared since he had fought with Lin Dong 3 years ago and suffered a severe injury. Of course, Lin Dong had not appeared either. He was still floating in the void at this moment, his spirit was still dormant and had not awakened. This battle was indeed Lin Dong's toughest battle after obtaining the system. The physical body was intact though. However, his spirit was already full of holes. He was forced to fall into a sleep hibernation to recover. As he floated, Lin Dong's body was attracted by the gravitational pull of the planet as it passed outside a primordial life planet, so he slowly headed towards the unfamiliar planet. The closer the life planet was, the greater the gravitational force would be, and the speed at which Lin Dong's physical body descended was naturally faster. After friction with the atmosphere to generate heat, Lin Dong became a fireball. The clothes on his body were all burnt. Shoo! He eventually fell into a lake on the unfamiliar planet, splashing up huge waves. The super-hot body met the water in the lake, accelerating the rise of the water vapor, causing the lake surface to be foggy. As it was late at night, Lin Dong's arrival did not cause much of a stir, except for the sound it made when it fell, which woke up the aborigines around the lake. Waiting until the next day. When the fishermen around the lake came to the edge of the lake and prepared to row their boats to fish in the lake, they realized that something was wrong. The water in the lake seems to reduce a cut, and there are countless large and small dead fish floating on top. This scene directly stunned the fishermen. They had been here for generations, fishing for a living, and had never seen such a scene. Nor had they ever heard their fathers talk about it. For these fishermen who lived on fish, fish was their lifeblood. Only after catching fish could they take them to the marketplace to exchange for some necessary necessities. Now the fish in the lake are dead, their way of life is also cut off. What should they do in the future? Some of the old fishermen couldn't accept such a reality and knelt on the ground and cried loudly. God! Are you punishing our fishery generation village? Why do you want to break our back? Our fishing generation village has never done anything to harm the heavens or the earth for generations. Why are you punishing us like this? Our fishery generation village has always lived off the fish in the fishery generation lake, and now that the fish are dead, this is heaven's way of destroying my fishery generation village. An air of sadness enveloped the fishermen. Although the young fishermen didn't cry like the old fishermen, what they saw in their eyes was a blank look at their future life. A lifetime of living on fish, and now that the fish are gone, the road is broken. Fishery Generation Village is a small village on the edge of Fishery Generation Lake. The villagers do not have any farmland and have been fishing for generations. In order to be able to perpetuate their children and grandchildren, they have established a series of fishing rules. For example, when a large number of fish spawning period is stationary fishing, caught the specification does not meet the standards of the fish, must also be released, or will lose the qualification of fishing. It is these rules that have allowed the lake to form a virtuous cycle of development, and the fish in it have fed generations of villagers. However, the benign development was broken at this moment. Judging from the death of the fish, no matter whether it is big fish or small fish, all of them are dead. Even if there are survivors, they are few and far between. This meant that the fishermen of the Fishery Generation Village would never be able to catch any more fish in the future. Without fish, they could not exchange them for other necessities. And the villagers of Fishing Generation Village would only be able to catch fish and nothing else in their lives. The situation that arose in Fishing Generation Lake soon spread back to the village. An old man with a beard that reached several centimeters long and a crutch, supported by a young girl, walked over. When he saw that all the fish in the lake were dead, this village chief of the Fishery Generation Village could not help but burst into old tears. He knew exactly what this meant. But now was not the time to be sad. There were more important things waiting for him, the village chief, to do. Since the fish had died and the fact could no longer be changed, there was a way to remedy the situation. The old man said to the young girl beside him, "Goyer, go pick up a dead fish for me." "Okay, Grandpa." The young girl came to the edge of the lake, bent down and picked up a dead fish that weighed about half a kilogram or so, and came back to hand it to the old man. After the old man received the dead fish, he took a closer look at it and put it in front of his nose to sniff it. It was fresh. It didn't stink yet. It can be said to be a blessing in misfortune. This much dead fish, to be preserved in the first place, would be enough for Fishery Generation Village to eat for a long time. The first thing to do now was to pacify everyone, so the old man said loudly, "Everyone listen to me, this is a test from heaven for our Fishery Generation Village, not a punishment. As long as we pass this test, a brighter and bigger path awaits us." The old man was the village chief and the most prestigious person in the Fishery Generation Village, and as soon as he spoke, the fishermen all quieted down. "Everyone, don't be sad. Even more so, don't be discouraged. Just now I checked, all these fish are still fresh. Let's first transport all the fish back home, marinate them and preserve them after dealing with the entrails. It's enough for us to live for a long period of time. As for what to do in the future if we lose the Fishing Generation Lake, don't worry about that, I'll think of a way." Soon everyone was orderly transporting a dead fish home. Among them were small fry, and even more dozens of pounds, and even tens of hundreds of pounds of large fish, which required 2 people to lift in order to carry them back. The young girl, Goyer, helped the old man to watch from the side. "Grandpa, why did the fish in the lake die?" Goyer asked curiously. She was still young and didn't really understand what kind of consequences the death of the fish in the Fishing Generation Lake would bring to the Fishing Generation Village. The little girl thought that since everyone had to work so hard to catch fish every day, wouldn't it be better if the fish came straight to their doorsteps without having to catch them now? It might have something to do with that loud noise in the latter part of last night. The old man replied. "Did something happen yesterday? How come I didn't hear it?" The little girl was puzzled. She had slept too soundly and didn't hear the sound. "Even if you didn't hear it, if my guess is right, something should have landed in the lake, which caused so many fish in the lake to die." "Something landed in the lake? What kind of thing?" "We don't know yet. After everyone has transported all the fish back, let's see if there's anything to be found, and if not, let's row a boat to the center of the lake to look for it." "Oh. Good." The little girl's 2 eyes rolled around, obviously having a great interest in the unknown. At the age of a teenager, it was the time of curiosity. At this time in the center of the Fishing Generation Lake, a naked corpse was lying on the surface of the lake. It was none other than Lin Dong, who had been floating in the void for 3 years and had been sucked over by the gravitational pull of this primordial life planet. He still showed no signs of awakening today, which showed how severely his mental power had been damaged from the battle with Emperor Abyss. Chapter 1466, Discovering the Situation. The planet that Lin Dong had landed on was called the Ancient Desolate Planet, a relatively primitive planet. There was no modernized high technology on it. There was only the most primitive state of life. The Fishery Generation Village, on the other hand, was the most remote and most backward small fishing village on the ancient desolate star. As the saying goes, rely on the mountain to eat the mountain, and rely on the water to eat the water. The villagers here have relied on the fishing generation lake for generations. In fact, Fishery Generation Lake was not called Fishery Generation Lake before, only that the villagers, in order to swear their sovereignty, incorporated their generation surname into the name of the lake, and as a result, it was changed to Fishery Generation Lake. As for the very first name of the lake, no one knows it anymore. All of the population of the Fishery Generation Village added up to roughly a few thousand people, and in the ancient Desolate Star, it belonged to a medium-sized village. For a small fishing village that had relied on Fishing Generation Lake for generations, the fish in the lake was their life. Now, due to unknown reasons, the fish have died on a large scale. In a short period of time, the Fishing Generation Village can still rely on these dead fish to live, but in a long period of time, when the dead fish are eaten up, and there are no more fish to be caught, where should the Fishing Generation Village go from here? Of course, these are all matters for the future. For the time being, the village has not yet been reduced to that level. A large amount of dead fish, salted and cured, was enough for them to live a rich life for a while. Thousands of people in the entire Fishery Generation Village, with the exception of a very few swaddled babies and old people who couldn't walk, everyone else was almost all on board, all helping to fish, kill, and pickle the fish to prevent them from rotting. These dead fish can be the next life security. It took almost a day for everyone to get rid of all the dead fish. In the process of fishing the fish, the villagers of Fishing Generation Village found a very strange phenomenon. That is, all the dead fish, all piled up to 2 or 3 meters of the lake, overlapping and crowded together. 2 or 3 meters away there was no fish body. As if there was a mysterious force that pushed these dead fish to the edge of the lake. It was convenient for the villagers to fish. No need for a boat to retrieve all the dead fish. After a long day of work, everyone was tired and rested early. Evening. The young girl Dai Guoyer helped her grandfather Dai Wenliang, the village chief of Fishing Generation Village, to the edge of the lake. Looking at the calm surface of the lake, this old man whose half of his body was already in the ground was overcome with grief. In the past, when I came to the lake for a walk at this time of the year, I could see a lot of fish playing in the lake. Some would even go beyond the surface of the lake. However, today there is nothing. I don't know if there are any surviving fish in the lake. Even if there are, I am afraid that they are only a few fish that are active at the bottom of the lake. That kind of fish could not be caught at all. Grandpa, you're crying so much, where are you uncomfortable? Dai Guoyer nervously cared. Grandpa isn't uncomfortable, Grandpa is worried about what the future path of Fishing Generation Village should be. Dai Wenliang replied. Even if we can't fish anymore, we can still do other things. Alas! Guoyer, you're still young, you don't understand the rules of this world. Do you know why no other villages come to Fishery Generation Lake to fish? It's not that they don't want to, it's that they can't, because this place has become the private property of our Fishing Generation Village. Once someone comes, they will be met with reckless counterattacks from all the Fishing Generation villagers. In the same way, we can't go and snatch the resources that the other villages tolerate in order to survive, or else the result will be the same. Dai Wenliang sighed and explained. On top of this primitive life planet where survival resources were scarce, every safe resource almost always had a master. For example, the fish in the Fishing Generation Lake was one of the safe resources. Unless you had a strength so powerful that it crushed others, only then would you dare to snatch them. Otherwise, the result would only be a lose-lose situation. In addition to safe resources, there are also some dangerous resources, belonging to the unowned things, anyone can go to collect. For example, the beasts in the primitive forest. But once you enter the primitive forest, life and death are hard to predict. Humans want to capture wild beasts to eat, wild beasts also want to eat humans. They will not be as gentle as fish. A little inattention could become the beast's dish. No one is willing to gamble with their lives when they have a choice. Dai Wenliang's worry was not without reason. The Fishery Generation Village had made a living from fishing for generations, and it could be said that they knew nothing but fishing. Letting them go to the primitive forest to catch wild beasts would be a total death sentence. Only those who had been living on the edge of the primitive forest, who had inherited the hunting skills and experience of their ancestors from generation to generation, dared to venture into the forest to catch wild beasts. But even extremely experienced hunting veterans couldn't do it flawlessly. Grandpa, you don't have to worry too much, even if we don't go to rob other people's resources, but the world is so big, there's always a suitable place for our Fishing Generation Village to live. Dai Guoyer comforted. She was still young and had been well protected by Dai Wenliang, resulting in a naive character that didn't know the perils of this world. I hope. Dai Wenliang returned. Knowing his granddaughter's character, he no longer continued to talk about this aspect. Because it was impossible for Guire to give him good advice. Let's go, let's row a boat to the center of the lake and take a look. Okay, Grandpa. The two of them then paddled their boat and slowly headed towards the center of Udai Lake. Fishing Generation Lake wasn't really that big. When it was said to be a lake, it was actually just a larger fish pond. All along the way, the lake was unusually calm, and other than the ripples caused by the oars paddling on the water, there was no other movement. It was completely different from before. Grandpa, this lake is so calm. It's weirdly scary. Dai Guire spoke up. The fish and other aquatic creatures are pretty much dead, of course it's calm. Dai Wenliang said back. Grandpa, what exactly do you think fell into the lake that caused so many fish to die? Don't know yet. But if my guess is good, it should be a meteor flying from the sky. A star from the sky? A look of surprise immediately appeared in the little girl's eyes. That was a star. It actually fell into the lake? Then wouldn't she be able to touch it herself? For beautiful things like stars, young girls were all without much resistance. It's not a star, it's a shooting star. The two are different. According to some ancient documents, the stars are very far away from us and are very large. Once they fall to our planet, all the living beings on the ancient desolate planet will perish. Meteors, on the other hand, are stones that float outside the planet, very small, and the power of the fall is not very powerful. Just like now, there have been similar cases in other places before. Dai Wenliang patiently explained. He was not only the most prestigious person in Fishing Generation Village, but also the most knowledgeable. When he was young, Dai Wenliang had once left the Fishery Generation Village and traveled out, seeing the wider world outside. So that's how it is. Grandpa knows so much. The little girl complimented as she rowed the oars. I also knew this knowledge when I was young and studying outside. The grandparents and grandchildren had a chat. Suddenly Dai Guire shouted, Grandpa, look, there's something in front of us. Chapter 1467, Opportunity for Fishery Generation Village. Hearing his granddaughter's voice, Dai Wenliang hurriedly looked along the front, only to see that something seemed to be floating on the water. This was the only thing they had seen on the surface of the lake all the way over. Could it be the thing that caused the massive death of the fish in the Fishing Generation Lake? Quickly, Guire, row forward. Dai Wenliang said in a hurry. Actually, there was no need for him to say it. Dai Guire had already sped up her own movements. The small boat that the two of them were traveling in was rapidly drawing closer to what was drifting on the water ahead of them. A minute later, when the boat came to the center of the lake, both Dai Wenliang and Dai Guire's grandparents and grandchildren were stunned by the sight before them. The little girl even exclaimed at the first sight. Ah! Then covering her eyes, she didn't dare to look again. Because what was in front of them was actually a naked young man. Although Dai Guire was young, she still understood that men and women were not related. Normally speaking, a girl of her age would almost be ready to get married and have children. Only due to the loving care of Dai Wenliang, the village chief, the little girl was still a flower in the greenhouse and did not have any troubles in this regard. This naked man was naturally Lin Dong, whose spirit was in a deep sleep hibernation. Master. Grandfather. Didn't you say it was a shooting star? How is this? This a man? Still not wearing clothes. So humiliating. Dai Guire stammered and asked. I don't know what this is either. Dai Wenliang replied with a bitter smile. With his knowledge, he couldn't explain why this was happening. The little girl opened the hand covering her eyes to a thin slit and looked at the man's face on the lake, and couldn't help but exclaim in her heart, what a handsome man. It simply grew completely on the aesthetic of men in her heart. Grandpa, he won't be dead. Dead, right? Dai Guire asked softly. Fruity, come closer, I'll check. Dai Wenliang commanded. I don't. He's not even wearing clothes. If people find out, it's so embarrassing. Although Dai Guire wanted to open her eyes and do what her grandfather said. But the girl's reserve still made her refuse. It's already time, still care about this, besides, it's just the two of us here, could it be that I would still tell? This person from last night to soak in the lake, I guess it is hopeless, a dead man only, we have to hurry to get him out of the burial, alas. Look, stop, handsome, a young man, just like this died, really a pity. Grandfather's words made Daiguayer put down her hands, took the oars and paddled, and continued to approach. At the same time, her eyes kept on Lin Dong. When she saw the other party's features, she immediately turned her head with a red face and chose not to continue watching. It was really too humiliating. In the end, she was still an untouched little girl. When the boat approached Lin Dong, the first and foremost thing that Dai Wenliang did was to put his hand in front of Lin Dong's nose and try to see if the other party was still breathing. Even though he already had an answer in his mind that it was absolutely impossible for this person to survive, he still could not help but confirm it. Suddenly he realized the unreasonable situation and his outstretched hand stopped in midair. Up close, this person's skin was actually as clear as crystal. As the only one in the Fisherman's Generation village who had some slight knowledge of pharmacology, Dai Wenliang knew that this would not be what a dead person should have. Not to mention that it had been soaked in water for a day and a night. No normal person had such good skin. With doubts in his heart, Dai Wenliang continued to reach out. The result did surprise him. Surprisingly, there was still breathing? In other words, this person was still alive? How was this possible? After falling from a high altitude and soaking in the lake for a day and a night, he didn't die? Is this still a human being? People like Dai Wenliang, who lived at the bottom of the hierarchy, were not destined to understand Lin Dong's power. Falling from a high altitude and taking a dip in the water are all child's play. One must realize that Lin Dong had been drifting in the void for 3 whole years. During this period, he had encountered the harshest environment in the void several times. He had been swallowed by spatial cracks several times. There was still nothing that could be done to him. A half-step heavenly emperor-level flesh body was enough to allow Lin Dong to go anywhere in the universe. Even the most terrifying heavenly tribulation could not hurt him in the slightest. The only thing that could injure Lin Dong was an emperor realm powerhouse or a mighty treasure. Seeing that Lin Dong still had breath, it was too late to think about it. Dai Wenliang hurriedly commanded, "Guar, come and help pull him up, this kid is still alive." Ah? Still alive? Really? Daiguayer first showed a look of surprise, then was a bit worried, "But Grandpa, he's not even wearing clothes, how can I help?" After thinking about it, Dai Wenliang took off the jacket he was wearing and covered Lin Dong's lower body, saying, "Alright. I'll put the clothes over him so that he can't be seen." Only then did the little girl turn around, and together with Dai Wenliang, they made a strong effort, trying to pull Lin Dong onto the boat. One was a 15 or 16-year-old girl who had been raised in a good manner, and the other was an old man whose half of his body was already in the ground. Both had limited strength. After tossing and turning for a long time, they barely managed to pull Lin Dong onto the boat. Both of them were a little out of breath. After resting for a moment, Daiguayer asked, "Grandpa, is he really not dead? Try to see if he is still breathing yourself." Dai Wenliang returned. So Daiguayer moved a little distance away, looked at the almost perfect face, forced herself to hold back the palpitations in her heart, and reached her hand tremblingly in front of the other person's nose. And indeed there was still breathing. "Grandpa! He really isn't dead," the little girl said excitedly. "And I've known this for a long time." Dai Wenliang nodded. "Grandpa, then what do we do now?" "Bring it back first. Tomorrow I will properly check the body for this brat, and if that doesn't work, we can only go and ask a physician to come and take a look to see what caused the unconsciousness." Just now, during the process of pulling Lin Dong onto the ship, Dai Wenliang had briefly checked. The body's functions were all normal. It could even be said to be too good to be true. However, he was just unconscious. This made Dai Wenliang puzzled. He hadn't encountered such a peculiar situation either. "Grandpa, do you think it's him who caused so many fish to die in Fishing Generation Lake?" Daiguayer asked curiously. "Don't know. So we have to wake him up and ask him. What if he's the cause? What can be done? We can't just eat him like a fish, can we? It's not like we're beasts." Dai Wenliang returned without a trace of anger. "Grandpa, I think that this person can cause the death of so many fish and is fine after soaking in the water for a day and a night. There must be something special about him, he is not an ordinary person. If we save him, maybe this is an opportunity for Fishing Generation Village." Dai Wenliang froze. This aspect had not occurred to him. Not to mention, Weir's words really had some truth to them. This person was not an ordinary person at first glance. Let's wait until he wakes up first. The grandparents and grandchildren rowed a small boat and took Lin Dong away from the center of the lake to the fishing generation village. Chapter 1468 How Can I Fly? Ancient Desolate Star. Fishery Generation Village. The grandparents and grandchildren of Dai Wenliang and Dai Guo exerted a great deal of effort to transport Lin Dong back home. They did not look for other villagers to help. For the time being, they also did not want the other villagers to know about Lin Dong's existence. After all, as long as one was not a fool, seeing a naked young man suddenly appearing in the fishing generation lake coincided with a large number of fish dying in the lake. One would definitely connect the two. Otherwise, where in the world would there be such a coincidence? How come no one had appeared in the lake before when the fish hadn't died? In order to avoid trouble, Dai Wenliang still decided to hide it for now. Even though he was the village chief of Fishery Generation Village, he couldn't go against the people's justice. When all the Fishery Generation Village villagers decided to do something, it was useless for him, the village chief, to oppose it. It's better to wait until this kid wakes up. Let's see if he can bring some changes to the Fishery Generation Village. If he could, it would be a blessing in disguise. Fishery Generation Village although can rely on Fishery Generation Lake in this acre of land to live and work in peace and happiness. But Generation Wenliang had gone out to see the prosperity and cruelty of the outside world, once wanted to bring the Fishing Generation Village to a new level. They ultimately did not realize. There are many reasons for this. One of the main ones is that the villagers of Fishing Generation Village have gotten used to a peaceful life and have lost the spirit of adventure. They felt that the status quo was fine. There was no need to break this calm. For a group of villagers who had lost their ambition, Dai Wenliang didn't have any solutions. Even though he told everyone. Only when they were strong themselves could they live a better and more peaceful life. Otherwise the calmness in front of them was just a flower in the mirror and a moon in the water, breaking at the touch of a button. Unfortunately, no one was willing to listen to his long speech. How many generations have lived here in the village? At least dozens of generations. Still not living peacefully and steadily? Therefore, the villagers of Fishery Generation Village didn't really believe what Dai Wenliang said. They thought he was just an alarmist. Everyone continued to live in their own way. Even the training class that Dai Wenliang had organized and established, there weren't many small children who were willing to come. Have that energy, might as well help the family to do some work. Over time, Dai Wenliang's ambitions had gradually sunk in and he had no choice but to accept reality. Now Lin Dong's arrival made his heart warm up again. I wondered if this kid would be able to change the status quo of the Fishing Generation Village after he woke up. When Dai Wenliang was traveling outside, he was fortunate enough to have met a great man who was able to fly in the sky and disappear from the earth. After he calmed down, he couldn't help but think that since this person descended from the sky and landed in the Fishery Generation Lake, could it be that he fought with an enemy in the sky and was knocked down? Or perhaps after being heavily poisoned, when he flew to the sky above the Fishery Generation Lake, he just happened to have a toxic attack and fainted, and then he landed in the Fishery Generation Lake. There were both possibilities. The latter one was a bit more likely. If he had fought with the enemy, someone would have come to look for the body, and it would have been impossible for him not to have any injuries on his body. The chances of being poisoned were greater. Most of the fish in the lake were also poisoned. Anyway, no matter what, being able to fly in the sky and hide in the ground must be a super big person. With excitement, Dai Wenliang stayed up all night. Early the next morning, he could not wait to come to Lin Dong's house. He began to check his body. As a result, he was busy, but could not find any problems. But this kid just won't wake up. It made it difficult for Dai Wenliang. After a night of thinking, he still does not know the identity of this kid, whether there are enemies chasing him and other issues, it is not appropriate to expose for the time being. Also cannot go to the physician. Otherwise there could be serious consequences. Since all the organs and functions of the body were completely normal, and even much better than average, it was thought that there should be no problem. It was believed that it wouldn't take long for him to wake up. Then, let's simply wait for him to wake up on his own. Even if he went to find a physician, he might not be able to be cured, and he would also expose his whereabouts, which was not worth the loss. After thinking about it, Dai Wenliang decided, hiding Lin Dong without any intervention and waiting for him to awaken on his own. Knock knock knock. A knock on the door sounded at this time. Is it Guire? Come in. Dai Wenliang said as he came back to his senses. Crunch. The door to the room was pushed open, and Dai Guire walked in and greeted, "Good morning, Grandpa." N. Dai Wenliang nodded in response. Grandpa, have you checked this brother's body? Dai Guire asked. Checked. What are the results? The body is completely fine at all, and there are no injuries. As for why he is sleeping, I guess it might be because he has been hit by some kind of intense poison, which caused the inability to awaken to happen. Ah? Poisoned? Then, Grandpa, let's hurry up and call a physician. Otherwise, if time passes, when the toxin spreads to the entire body, it will be over. Dai Guire said anxiously. Guire, listen to Grandpa, we can't go and hire a physician, we can only hide this kid and wait for him to wake up on his own. Why? He's poisoned, can he wake up on his own? Dai Guire asked with a puzzled expression. Dai Wenliang then told all of his guesses, all of them. When Dai Guire heard this, her curiosity instantly exploded and she hurriedly asked after him, Grandpa, you said that this brother can fly in the sky? N. How else did he fall into the fishing generation lake? It must have been when he was passing through the air, when his toxicity suddenly kicked in, so he fell down and happened to land in the Yudai lake, and the fish in the lake were probably killed by the toxicity that emanated from his body. Dai Wenliang explained. Can someone really fly in the air? The little girl's eyes widened, her face full of curiosity. Of course. Once when I was out traveling, I was fortunate enough to have seen a great figure, flying in the air. To them, it was just child's play. That kind of figure, casually waving his hand, has the ability to move mountains and seas, but unfortunately, I was only able to catch a glimpse and didn't get a good look at it. Dai Wenliang recalled. Grandpa, then what do I have to do to fly? The little girl seemed to be extraordinarily attached to the issue of flying. This involves knowledge of martial arts. When one's strength reaches a certain level, one can fly freely in the air. Dai Wenliang explained. As for what strength one needed to reach, he didn't say. Because even he didn't know. When he was young and traveled out, he had only gone around the surrounding small towns. With a country bumpkin character like him, no one would even bother with him, and the knowledge he learned was limited. And that time when he accidentally met the flying big shot was the most glorious moment in Dai Wenliang's life. Even though he had only squeezed through the crowd and glanced at it at that time, it was enough to blow it off for a lifetime. It's like this. Grandpa, so it's hard if you want to fly? That's for sure. Otherwise, do you think just anyone can fly? Even within 100 miles of us, we haven't heard of anyone who can fly, and the most powerful ones are just able to kill an ordinary beast with their bare hands. Hearing Dai Wenliang say this, the little girl's heart instantly went half cold. She also wanted to fly, but to do so, it seemed difficult. She then dropped her gaze on Lin Dong on the bed, her eyes rapidly turning, and she did not know what she was thinking in her heart. Chapter 1469 Village People's Assembly. After Dai Wenliang and his granddaughter Dai Guire had discussed the matter, they did not dare to leave Lin Dong here either. In case he really had enemies coming to look for him, wouldn't they be able to find him at once? So he hid Lin Dong in the cellar of the room. It was very hidden there and could not be easily discovered. Even if someone came looking for him, he would be able to hide it. Time passed day by day. Every day, Dai Wenliang's grandparents and grandchildren would go in and out of the cellar several times to see if Lin Dong woke up. As a result, there was no movement. If it wasn't for the fact that Lin Dong was still breathing and there wasn't a single sign of decay in his body, both of them would have thought that the man was dead. The large amount of dead fish in the Fishery Generation Lake would not go bad after being salted by the villagers of the Fishery Generation Village, allowing them to eat them for a long period of time. However, after finishing the fish, what should happen to the Fishery Generation Village? This was a problem that everyone needed to consider. The villagers' meeting was held again and again, but they were not able to discuss a good result. The plan in Daiwan's conscience was to wait for Lin Dong's awakening. In his opinion, for such a big person, changing the fate of a small fishing village was nothing more than a casual remark. Big people all had their own territories. Simply by casually carving out a small piece of their territory for the fishery generation village, they would be able to completely change the fate of the fishery generation village. This was what Dai Wenliang was looking forward to. That was why he was extraordinarily attentive to Lin Dong. A few days later, when he was about to clean Lin Dong's body, he found that there was not even a trace of odor on the boy's body. It was reasonable to say that after lying for such a long period of time, the body would definitely smell bad. The result was just the opposite. Not only was there no odor, there was also a faint aroma. After smelling it, it was refreshing. It was more than that. On Lin Dong's crystal clear skin, there was not even a single speck of dust. It was as if it had just been cleaned. It made Dai Wenliang more and more convinced that this kid was definitely an extraordinary big shot. The hope of the fishery generation village was in him. Looking at the sleeping Lin Dong, Dai Wenliang prayed in his heart. Kid, wake up soon. Soon half a year had passed. Lin Dong was still sleeping in the cellar of Dai Wenliang's house without any reaction. Dai Wenliang had gone from initially entering and exiting several times a day to only entering and exiting once every few days. During this process, he experienced hope, disappointment, and finally despair. A whole half year off. All without waking up. Will it still be possible to wake up? It wouldn't be like this to sleep for the rest of his life. All in all, Dai Wenliang didn't hold much hope. There was another reason why he went in and out of the cellar less often. That was that the dead fish in the fishing generation lake had been pretty much eaten by them. If they couldn't find another way out in another month, the thousands of people in fishery generation village would go hungry. Thousands of people going hungry is no joke. As the village head of the village, Dai Wenliang must face up to this problem. During this period, the villagers of Fishing Generation Village had also traveled to Fishing Generation Lake time and time again to conduct large-scale fishing. But the results were unsatisfactory. There was hardly any harvest. That large-scale fish death in Fishing Generation Lake half a year ago could be said to have shattered the results of generations of effort by Fishing Generation Village. After all, how could there be any fish left when even the small fry had died? If those fry hadn't died, half a year's time would have already grown up to be caught and eaten. Unfortunately, there are no ifs. Now facing the problem of food cuts, it made the entire Fishing Generation Village immersed in a depressing atmosphere. At this point in time, Wenliang was even more afraid to tell Lin Dong's story. He was unsure if the villagers who were in a state of extreme repression would do anything extreme. He also urged his granddaughter, Daiguer, not to spill the beans. Of course, Daiguer would not say anything. For half a year, she was the only one who entered the cellar several times a day and never stopped. In fact, even if Lin Dong was told out, it would be fine. How could some fisherman living at the lowest level of the ancient desolate star cause harm to the hallowed half-step heavenly emperor level Lin Dong? Let alone them. Even if the strongest person on the ancient desolate planet came, they would not be able to hurt even a hair on Lin Dong's head. The two were no longer on the same latitude. Just like a grain of dust, could it kill a person? Obviously, it was an impossibility. Even if the person was lying there motionless, the dust would at most fall on him, dirtying his body a little. A gust of wind would blow through and the dust would be blown away. That is all. Other than that, the dust no longer served any other purpose. However, the grandparents and grandsons of Dai Wenliang did not realize Lin Dong's ability. They thought that even if Lin Dong was a great man, he was still a mortal flesh and could definitely be injured using a sharp weapon. Naturally, they did not dare to speak out. Today was another villagers' meeting in the Fishery Generation Village. All the villagers of Fishery Generation Village had gathered together to discuss what the way forward should be. Don't look at the existing fish stock that can still maintain open a month of normal life. If we don't find a way out, 1 month will soon pass. By then thousands of mouths will want food. Who can take out in a short time? No matter what, we must discuss a result today. Otherwise in a month's time, everyone will have no choice but to starve to death, or gamble their lives on capturing wild beasts in the primitive forest. But if we do that, we're bound to die and get injured. The villagers of Fishing Generation Village only know how to fish. Where would they catch wild beasts? Wouldn't that be giving food to those vicious beasts? Village Chief, what do you think we should do? If we don't come up with a result from today's discussion, we're going to starve to death in a month's time. That is. Village Chief, you have wide knowledge, so you must think of a way out for me to live. Everyone, don't worry. The village chief has definitely been thinking of a way out all this time, and I'm sure his old man will bring us out of our predicament. Of course we believe in the village chief, but now there's still a month to go before the fish stock runs out. By then where will we find so much food at once for the thousands of people in the entire fishing generation village? Everyone, don't put too much pressure on the village chief. The village chief is also a human being. If he is under too much pressure, he won't be able to think of any good solutions instead. The villagers were talking to each other. Dai Wenliang sat there, a mouthful of dry cigarettes in his hand, coughing from time to time. Beside him, Dai Guar would immediately pat him on the back. Let the villagers discuss, but he did not say a word. It is not that he does not want to say, but really do not know what to say. Previously, Dai Wenliang had also placed his hopes on Lin Dong. He thought that as long as Lin Dong woke up, the problems of the fisherman's generation village would be solved. Now that he had not awakened after half a year had passed, it was estimated that it would be hard enough to wake up. A month's time to find a suitable path for the fishery generation village, how easy could it be? The surrounding resources that can be safely accessed are all occupied by various villages, only the boundless primitive forest has no owner and can be entered at will. Just that dangerous primitive forest, and is not the fishing village can be stained? Into 10, can come out alive half, all belong to his burnt incense. In the end what to do? Generation when conscience in the bitter. Chapter 1470, Tao Family Village. As the discussion among the villagers of Fisherman's Generation Village became more and more intense, Dai Wenliang knew that his continued silence was definitely not an option. So he stood up and said loudly, "Everyone be quiet for a moment." The originally rowdy scene instantly quieted down. Thousands of pairs of eyes stared at Dai Wenliang, hoping that he would point out a clear path for everyone. In fact, the requirements of the villagers of Fisherman's Generation Village were not too high. As long as they don't go hungry. But it was such a small request that was so difficult on the ancient desolate star. The vermilion door stinks of wine and meat, and the road has frozen bones. This saying was practical everywhere. Don't look at the thousands of villagers in the Fishery Generation Village discussing here how they could not go hungry after a month. In other places of the ancient desolate star, there were many, many people who were living a rich life. Not only did they not have to worry about going hungry, all they ate was good food. Some of the food was worth a lot of money, and the cost of eating one meal, if converted into coarse grains, was enough for thousands of villagers in Fishery Generation Village to eat for a year. The difference is so big. After the scene quieted down, Dai Wenliang scanned the circle. Almost everyone showed an expectant gaze. Dai Wenliang understood in his conscience. At this time, he must not say anything to discourage everyone, otherwise the villagers' emotions will definitely get out of control. I understand everyone's mood, since it's no longer possible to catch fish in the fishing generation lake. The only way for us to live is to leave this place, relocate the entire village, and look for a place that can provide more than enough food to be stationed. As soon as Dai Wenliang's words fell, a villager immediately asked loudly, "Village chief. This is our hometown, our fishery generation village has been living here for generations, leaving just like that?" "Yes. Village chief. It's not good to leave our hometown like this and go to a strange place. There is still a way to live if you leave. If we don't leave and continue to stay here, we can only wait for death. What does everyone think we should do?" Dai Wenliang replied. "But leaving here, where can we go? The surrounding places where we can safely obtain food are all occupied by other villages. Am I going to plunder the resources of other villages?" "Plunder? You guys are overthinking it. Even if we want to, we have to have that strength to do so. At first I was going to organize a training class to improve everyone's fighting ability. The result is that every one of you said it was useless. When you really encountered a big event, you only know the importance of strength. As long as the strength is enough, even if we don't go to plunder the other villages, we can also put forward some conditions. We can coexist peacefully, and without the strength of the other people do not even have the opportunity to talk to you." There was a hint of emotion in Dai Wenliang's tone. Once upon a time, after he finished traveling outside and returned to Fishing Generation Village, he was with a passion. He was prepared to start with small children and raise a group of good hands for the Fishery Generation Village. Unfortunately, not a single person came forward to support him. Things just ran aground. If the fishery generation village had a strong strength, even if there were no more fish in the fishery generation lake, it would be perfectly possible to find other ways to survive. There was no need to gather here to complain and count on him, an old man, to solve the problem. The villagers all heard the dissatisfaction in Dai Wenliang's tone. Especially some of the old men among them. They were the ones who were the main force that opposed the idea of having some kind of training class in the first place. With that time and energy, it would be better to help the family more. Oops. Village chief. What's the point of saying this now? Let bygones be bygones. The most important thing nowadays is to find a way to live for my fishing generation village so that everyone doesn't starve to death. An old man stood out and said. That's village chief. You are someone who has gone out and seen the world, so don't be so general with us. Dai Wenliang sighed helplessly. He was also just venting out the grievances that had accumulated in his heart when he was young. Time had passed for decades. The ambitions back then cared to be smoothed out by time. To mention it again nowadays, it truly no longer had any meaning. If you want to not be starved to death, you must migrate out. As for where to move to, you guys don't need to worry, I've already found a place. It's just that the migration of the entire village of thousands of people is on a larger scale, so everyone go back and prepare properly, and we'll set off again in half a month. Dai Wenliang waved his big hand. After saying that he didn't give everyone time to react, he turned around and left. The little girl, Dai Guai, hurriedly followed. After the grandparents and grandchildren left, the scene returned to being lively. Everyone was discussing the matter of the village relocation. Since it was the village chief who had said to relocate, it was definitely going to be relocated. As for where to migrate to, they didn't know. It didn't matter where as long as they didn't go to the primitive forest to gamble with their lives and could safely obtain food. Now that the remaining fish stocks are only enough to eat for a month, the villagers don't have too many requirements, as long as they cannot go hungry. In fact, in the prime of life of the fishing village, villagers want to eat enough or no problem. But this kind of people in the fishing generation course less than 1/5. Most of them were old, weak, women and children. It would not be so easy for one person to want to feed 5 or 6, or even 7 or 8 people. After returning home, Dai Guai couldn't wait to follow up. Grandpa, are we really going to migrate away? What can we do if we don't migrate? There are no more fish in the fishing generation lake, and in a month's time, thousands of people can only starve and wait for death. The only way to find food to feed the thousands of people in the entire village is to migrate out. Dai Wenliang shook his head and sighed. Then where are we leading to? Later you prepare, follow me to go out for a long trip. About 6 or 7 days away from here, there is a Tao family village, that is the richest village within hundreds of miles. When I once traveled outside, I was acquainted with a Tao family village person, and the relationship has always been very good. He has said that the food in the Tao family village is very rich. Some years ago I still have contact with him. Now let's go to find him, and see if we can make a living in the Tao family village. But Grandpa, there are thousands of people in our fishing generation village. Will they agree? Try. Generally speaking, rich villages like Tao family village don't do much work themselves. They'll invite many people from outside the village to help out, and then give a food in exchange. Although we have a lot of people in fishery generation village, we have quite a lot of laborers. Most of all, I've heard from that person who knows us well that Tao family village has a big lake, at least 10 times the size of fishery generation lake. We can't do anything else in fishery generation village. We're definitely good at fishing. It's just that we used to fish for ourselves, and in the future we might have to do it for others, so I hope everyone can accept it for now. As long as we can feed the entire village, I believe everyone will definitely accept it. I hope so. Half an hour later. Dai Wenliang and Dai Guai's grandparents and grandchildren, as well as a few villagers, left the fishery generation village and headed in the direction of the Tao family village. These few villagers were all close friends of Dai Wenliang. As the village chief of fishery generation village, he naturally had some loyal supporters. Chapter 1471, Can You Ever Marry? 7 days later. Inside the Tao family village. Dai Wenliang met Tao Chang'e, a close friend he once knew. The other party was also an old man. When they first met, they were both about the same age. Having traveled outside together for a short period of time, their relationship was very good. The two hadn't broken contact over these decades. In the beginning, every time Dai Wenliang would take the time to come and meet Tao Chang'e to catch up on old times. Therefore, for the Tao family village, Dai Wenliang is still relatively familiar. Later, he had a disease, plus people old, action is not very convenient, also did not come. At that time both of them could have not small ambitions and aspirations. Unfortunately, in the end, they all lost to reality. Summarized in one sentence. Ideal is very rich, reality is very bone skinny. Elder brother Dai, you haven't come to see me for 20 years, right? If you don't come again, I'll be in the ground. Tao Changa sighed. This doesn't come anymore? To be precise, it should be 18 years, alas. People are getting old, and some years ago I had a disease that made it not too easy to move around, so I haven't had the chance to come. Dai Wenliang also couldn't help but sigh. Although the two hadn't seen each other for a long time, their relationship still wasn't much estranged. Elder brother Dai, who is this? Tao Changa asked as he looked at the beautiful young girl, Dai Guer, beside Dai Wenliang. This is my granddaughter, Dai Guer, come. Guer, meet Grandpa Tao. Good day, Grandpa Tao. Dai Guer respectfully shouted. Ha ha. Good. Guer is good. Tao Changa laughed happily. I say, Tao old brother, Guer has called you Grandpa, and there's no indication? Did you call this Grandpa for nothing? Dai Wenliang reminded from the side. Elder brother Dai. Look at what you're saying. It's not easy for you to bring your granddaughter on a trip, how can you have no indication? When you guys leave, I'll definitely give you a big gift to ensure that you won't miss your trip. Elder brother Tao, this is something you volunteered for. It wasn't me who asked for it. Yes. I volunteered. Tao Changa was all smiles. It could be seen that for Dai Wenliang's arrival, he was happy from the bottom of his heart, and it wasn't that kind of superficial false sentiment. When people get old, they always like to recall the past. In Tao Changa's life, the most memorable thing was when he was young, the days when he traveled outside with Dai Wenliang. At this time, Dai Guer couldn't help but pull on her grandfather Dai Wenliang's sleeve. In the eyes of the little girl, how could her grandfather ask for a gift from someone else? Wouldn't that be a disgrace? Unexpectedly, Dai Wenliang completely ignored it and instead smiled at Dai Guer and said, Guer is fine. This gift should be asked for. Back in the day, your grandfather Tao and I were life and death friends. Once the two of us encountered a wild bear, and we almost became the bear's food, huh? Time flies, a few decades have passed. Not so. In a flash we are all people with half of our bodies in the ground. However, elder brother Dai, you still have such a beautiful granddaughter, it is not expected, I wonder if it is possible to marry? Tao Changa asked. What? You still want to hit on my granddaughter's idea? Elder brother Dai, I won't hide it from you, I happen to have an elder grandson slightly older than Guer's age who was not yet married, let's see if there's a chance for our two families to add to each other's marriage. Tao Changa said honestly. Young people's affairs still have to look at their own eyes, if Guer doesn't have an opinion, I as a grandfather certainly won't object. After all, our relationship is there, don't you think so? Dai Wenliang replied. Really? Tao Changa's eyes lit up. He had fallen for this innocent little girl at first glance. It would definitely be a beautiful thing if she could marry her grandson. With Dai Guer's looks, not to mention in Tao family village, even in bigger towns, Tao Changa had never seen such a beautiful, eye-catching girl. Dai Guer was reluctant to hear it. Wasn't it to Tao family village to seek help? How come they are still discussing their own marriage? She generation of fruit either not married, to be married to marry a top of the big man. Just like. At this time, in the mind of Dai Guer, unexpectedly surfaced the young man's appearance in the cellar at home. Shaking her head and shaking away the images in her mind, Dai Guer objected, Grandpa. What are you guys talking about? I'm not going to marry anyone. I want to stay by your side all the time to take care of you. Silly girl, sooner or later, Grandpa will have to go into the ground one day, and when that time comes, you, a girl, will have to have a man, otherwise it will be hard to survive. Dai Wenliang persuaded. This was also a matter of his heart. Guer's condition was naturally without comment. But Dai Wenliang knew that his granddaughter's vision was also very high. There wasn't a single man of a similar age in the village of fishing generation who didn't like Guer. As Guer's age grew in the past 2 years, the people who proposed marriage were able to break through the threshold. But she just couldn't see any of them. The entire fishing village could not choose a favorite. Dai Wanliang couldn't do anything about it. Since Guer didn't like it, he certainly wouldn't force her. However, what worried Dai Wanliang was that in a few years, he would be in the ground. At that time, without his own protection, how would a small woman live? Especially since Guer was still so beautiful, it would be even more dangerous. Grandpa. You won't die. You still have to live for a long, long time. I'm going to stay with you all the time. I'm not going to marry anyone. Dai Guer pouted. Good. Guer won't marry anyone and will always stay by Grandpa's side. Dai Wanliang laughed bitterly. That's more like it. The conversation between the grandparents and grandchildren fell into the ears of Tao Chang'e across the room, making him a little unimpressed. Where was there a girl who didn't marry? It's just that they haven't met one they like. Tao Chang'e heard Dai Wanliang talk about the fisherman's generation village. A small fishing village with only a few thousand people. Generations have relied on fishing for a living. The young man who grew up here, how can be worthy of such a beautiful little girl? It's right that Guer can't see it. His own eldest grandson is a different story. Growing up in a big village like Tao family village. Not long ago also got the master of the village reuse, in the Tao family village status is extraordinary. He is also not bad looking, Guer will definitely like it. Tao Chang'e has secretly decided. Later on, let someone bring a letter to tell his eldest grandson to come back and meet with Guer. The two will definitely see eye to eye. When the time comes to set them up, it might just work out. Elder brother Dai, you haven't come to see me for such a long time, and this sudden arrival, you should have something to do, right? Tao Chang'e asked. Dai Wanliang knew that it was time for him to get to the point, so he said seriously. Elder brother Tao, truth be told, I did have a very important matter to ask for your help when I came to find you this time. Oh? What is it, Dai old brother, but say no harm, as long as I, Tao Chang'e, can help, with the relationship between the two of us, I definitely won't push back. Chapter 1472, No Fragrance. Dai Wanliang told all about the troubles encountered by the fishery generation village. However, he didn't say why Fishing Generation Lake would suddenly run out of fish to catch, much less about saving a young man in Fishing Generation Lake. He only said that the village would soon be unable to survive, and that if they couldn't find a way out, thousands of people would go hungry. After listening to Dai Wanliang's account, Tao Chang'e did not immediately answer, but fell into silence. This matter is not something he can help just because he wants to. The thousands of people in Fishery Generation Village, young and old combined, the food they needed every day was a rather large number. Tao family village did have quite a few gentry who had the ability to help you Dai village, but he, Tao Chang'e, was not among them. If it was someone living in an ordinary small village, hearing Dai Wanliang's words, he would probably have been shocked. But Tao Chang'e would not. After all, he lived in a large village like Tao Zhezhuang that possessed nearly 300,000 people. Saying that it was a village, it was actually already equivalent to a small county on Earth. On the ancient desolate planet, anyone with a population of less than 10,000 people was called a small mountain village. The Fishery Generation Village was among them. 10,000 to 30,000 people, it was a medium-sized mountain village. 30,000 to 100,000 people, it was a large mountain village. From 100,000 to 300,000 people, it was a super-large village. With a population of nearly 300,000, Tao Zhezhuang fell into this category of super-large villages. A market town must have a population of over 300,000 and under 500,000. As for a city then, the population must be at least 500,000. The number of people in a village represented the strength. The greater the number of people, the stronger the strength would naturally be. However, it was not absolute. There were very few villages that had a small number of people, but their strength was not to be underestimated. Tao family village occupied the richest land resources for hundreds of miles around. In addition to satisfying the survival of the people of the Tao family village, there was still a lot of surplus. This also allowed the Tao family village to live a life of freedom. They would pay a certain amount of money to get some rich and strong young men from the surrounding small villages to help them with their labor. There were several villages that relied on the Tao family village to be able to live on. Dai Wanliang was playing with the same idea. It was just that nowadays, the Tao family village was saturated with the laborers it needed, and it wasn't that easy for the fishing Dai village to plug in. Elder brother Dai, it's not that I don't want to help you, it's not a small matter when it comes to the survival of the thousands of people in the fishery generation village. With my ability, I can at most help you with 1/10 of the villagers, and I can't do anything about the rest. Tao Chang said with shame. Helping fishery generation village to solve the survival problem of 1/10 of its population was already his limit. For that matter, he still had to go and ask for help. Relying on him alone, Tao Chango simply couldn't do it. Elder brother Tao, my fishery generation village as a whole, it's impossible to give up on any one person, please help me think of a way, elder brother Tao. Dai Wenliang pleaded. Old brother Dai. It's not that I don't want to help you, it's really because my ability is limited. Even to solve the survival problem of a few hundred people, I would have to find a few gentry in Tao family village to help. Tao Changa bitterly laughed. Elder brother Tao, I understand your situation, so I won't make things difficult for you. I only hope that you can introduce me to your lord of the manor. Our fishery generation village can obtain food and feed ourselves through labor, not to mention other things. We're absolutely good at fishing, our efficiency won't be worse than anyone else's. Didn't you say that there's a huge lake in Tao family manor? It just so happens that my fishing generation village can come in handy. Dai Wenliang said. Elder brother Dai, the lord of the manor isn't something that anyone can see just because they want to, even I can't see him, let alone introduce you. Tao Changa replied helplessly. The Lord Villa of Tao Family Villa was the person with the highest status in Tao Family Villa. He was in charge of everything in Tao Family Village. To put it bluntly, he was the emperor of Tao Family Village. It really wasn't something that ordinary people could see. Tao Changa can only be regarded as the middle class in the Tao Family Village, and is not really qualified to introduce Dai Wenliang to see the lord of the village. Hearing Tao Changa's words, the hearts of Dai Wenliang and Dai Guerre's grandparents and grandchildren immediately fell to the bottom. If they couldn't solve the subsequent survival problem of the fishery generation village this time, in a month's time, the thousands of people in the fishery generation village would really have to go hungry. Elder brother Tao, is there really no way out? Dai Wenliang asked with the last glimmer of hope. Tao Changa thought for a moment and said, it's not that there is no way at all, my eldest grandson Tao Ming is now following the lesser lord of the manor to mix, maybe there is a way to introduce you to the lesser lord of the manor, as long as you can persuade the lesser lord of the manor words, easy to solve the problems encountered by the village of fishery generation. Dai Wenliang stood up at once in excitement at the words, and hurriedly asked, really? Of course it's true, old brother Dai, sit down and talk first, how could I dare to lie to you about such a thing? Old brother Tao, I wonder what your eldest grandson's name is. Where is he? Can I meet him? Dai Wenliang couldn't wait to ask after him. It was about the livelihood of thousands of people in fishery generation village, so of course he wanted it to be resolved as soon as possible. My eldest grandson's name is Tao Ming, nowadays he's a red man beside the young lord of the manor, he usually needs to follow the young lord of the manor, why don't we do it like this? Dai, old brother, you guys take a rest first, I'll immediately bring a letter to Ming Ming to let him come back for a trip, you guys are tired after rushing for so many days, I'll prepare something to eat, later we'll eat while waiting. Tao Changa suggested. He also hoped that his eldest grandson would be able to help Dai Wenliang, wouldn't this marriage be a success by then? The more he looked at Dai Guerre, the more Tao Changa felt fond of her. Such a beautiful little girl could not be seen often. Good. Then I'll trouble old brother Tao. Dai Wenliang agreed. Soon Tao Changa had prepared a sumptuous table of food. For Dai Guerre, who ate fish all year round, this was the first time she had seen so much food. In addition to fish, there were also many unknown meats. She looked towards her grandfather, Dai Wenliang. After seeing her grandfather nod, she ate without any hesitation. The two old men looked at Dai Guerre and couldn't help but smile at each other. Guerre, eat slowly. There's no need to be in such a hurry, these are all yours, in the future if you marry my family Ming Ming, you can eat food like this anytime you want. Tao Changa couldn't help but say with a smile. Hearing this, Dai Guerre, who was originally eating with relish, instantly felt that the food in her hands didn't smell good anymore. Was Tao Changa trying to buy herself with food? She was not going to marry the other party's grandson. Even if she herself wants to marry, she wants to marry the kind of big man who can fly. Just like. The figure of that person surfaced in her mind again. Even though the two hadn't said a word since the beginning of these half a year. But in Dai Guerre's mind, already he was taken as her choice of spouse. That Tao Ming was nothing more than an underling serving the young master of the Tao family village. Obviously not in line with his own requirements. Putting down the food in her hands fondly, Daiguer no longer continued to eat. Tao Changa looked at Daiguer, who had just been eating happily, and suddenly stopped, asking with some confusion, "Why isn't Guer eating? Is it not appetizing?" "No. Grandpa Tao, you guys eat. I suddenly feel very full," the little girl replied in a tangled voice. She was eager to eat. But she felt that eating would require her to marry Tao Ming, so it was better not to eat. Chapter 1473, Young Lord Tao Zhe. The Tao family manor was huge. A village that could accommodate nearly 300,000 people was much larger than the average small county on Earth. Since there were no modern communication facilities on the ancient wasteland planet, transmitting information would have specialized personnel for the job. They were called communicators, walking in all corners of Tao family village. If one were to ask who was most familiar with the Tao family village, without a doubt, it must be these correspondents. Tao Changa paid some remuneration and asked a correspondent to bring a letter to his eldest grandson Tao Ming as soon as possible. At this time, Tao Ming was accompanying Tao Zhe, the young lord of Tao family village, to watch a play in a flower courtyard called Spring Night House. Although Spring Night House had the word Spring Night in its name. But the women here were all selling their art and not their bodies. The grade in Tao family village also belonged to the top. Tao Zhe, as the young lord of Tao family village, the place he went to was naturally the best. Otherwise it didn't match his status. Tao Changa said that his eldest grandson, Tao Ming, was the red man beside the young lord of the manor, but the truth was otherwise. He was nothing more than a dog's leg beside Tao Zhe. Maybe Tao Zhe would kick him out when he was unhappy. After all, over the years, the young master of the manor was still the young master of the manor, but the lapdogs around him had changed batch after batch. Tao Ming had only just risen to the top. How long he could last by Tao Zhe's side depended on his ability. Tao family village, Spring Night House. A grand show was going on at this time. Almost all of the guests who frequented the Spring Lantern House had come to attend. As the veiled woman on the stage finished her song, the audience below clapped their hands in excitement. Slap. Good. Ha ha. Miss Qingguan is worthy of being invited from a great city. Just by the level of this song, it far surpasses other women in the Spring Night House. Today was really not worth the trip. Who says it isn't? It seems that the headliner of this Spring Lantern House is going to change hands, and from now on I will be Miss Qingguan's loyal supporter. I also support Miss Qinggun to become the head girl of the Lantern House. Support Miss Qinggun. Support Miss Qinggun. Support Miss Qinggun. The woman sitting on the stage smiled faintly. Even though she was wearing a veil, her appearance could be vaguely seen, and could definitely be described as a beautiful woman. As for why she was wearing a veil, of course it was to maintain a certain sense of mystery. Today was her debut show at Spring Night House. It couldn't be exposed to everyone all at once. This would be more likely to arouse a man's desire. The woman stood up, gently owed a bow to the audience on the stage, and said in a clear and soothing voice, "Qinggun is new to this place, so thank you all for your love. But as the head honoree of this Spring Night House, Qingguan really can't afford it." Her words had just sounded. Immediately, different voices rang out from the stage. "Miss Qingguan is too modest. Compared to you, those previous women of the Spring Lantern House were all mediocre, so if you are not the head honoree of the Spring Lantern House, who is qualified to be?" "That's right. Miss Qinggun is not only a beautiful woman, but her songs are unrivaled in the world, so you should be the head of the Spring Lantern House." "Not Miss Qingguan. Miss Qingkun is the one. Miss Qingkun is the one." The audience under the stage shouted frantically. It was just like those hardcore fans on Earth who worshipped celebrities. However, these people were ordinary guests. The guests with real status were all in the private rooms upstairs. There was an equally clear view of the performance on stage. The environment was many times better than the crowded stage. In one of the private rooms, a young man was staring with wide eyes, staring dead on at Miss Qingguan on the stage. He was Tao Zhe, the young lord of the Tao family village. He was also a regular customer of the Spring Lantern House. Having visited the Spring Lantern House so many times, it was the first time Tao Zhe had shown such excitement. The woman on the stage, no matter if it was her voice, her looks, and her figure, she had completely grown on his heart. Even though the other party was wearing a veil and couldn't see her real face clearly. However, the small waist, the clear and crisp voice, and the little vermilion mole between the eyebrows, none of them let Tao Zhe be mesmerized. The audience was right. Compared to Miss Qingwan, the other women in Spring Sky Tower were all mediocre and could no longer fit into their eyes. Young lord. This woman is simply a fairy from the heavens and must have come down to the mortal world for you, young lord. A young man said in a pandering manner. He was no other than Tao Changge's eldest grandson, Tao Ming. To be able to stand by young Lord Tao Zhe's side showed that he still had a couple of skills. At least the ass-kissing kung fu was top-notch. Ha ha. Well said. Tao Ming, you're very good, that's something I like to hear. Tao Zhe heard Tao Ming's words, and for a moment, his heart blossomed. Thank you, young lord. What I said is all the truth. In the entire Tao family village, other than you, young lord, who else could be worthy of Miss Qingwan? Isn't it for you that she descended to the Tao family village? Tao Ming continued to pat Tao Zhe's ass. It wasn't just this private room. In the other private rooms, there were likewise quite a few people drooling as they looked at Miss Qingwan on the stage. People from the great city were really different. Compared to those women from the previous Spring Lantern House, the quality was many times higher. Even the head girl of Spring Lantern House had to be ashamed of herself in front of Miss Qingwan. The people on the stage could only look at the action. They thought to themselves that they must fully support Miss Qinggun in the future. The people in the private room were all thinking about how they could get their hands on Miss Qinggun. To be able to enter the private room, their status was not low in the Tao family village. Unfortunately, they couldn't come on hard. It was because the backer behind this Spring Lantern House was much stronger. Even Tao Zhe, the young master of the Tao family village, did not dare to mess around here. It could be seen that it was not without reason that Spring Lantern House was able to grow so big and bring in a woman like Miss Qingwan from the big city. In the hundreds of miles of territory around, it was only the Tao family village that had a place like the Spring Night House for everyone's amusement, and there was more than one. All the other villages were struggling to make ends meet. The people of Tao family village, on the other hand, thanks to the fact that they had rich land, had already started enjoying life a long time ago. This was the gap. In fact, at least half of the Tao family villages, nearly 300,000 people, were from outside villages. Some came to exchange local specialties and see the world in the meantime, while others were hired to work. In short, in Tao family village, the ones who did the hard labor were all from the outer villages. In the private room. Tao Ming, you kid, tell me, how am I going to get my hands on Miss Qingwan? Tao Zhe stared at the woman on the stage and asked. Young lord. With your status, it's not just a matter of words? Does this Spring Night House dare to resist? Tao Ming asked in disbelief. No way. Behind Spring Lantern House is my uncle, I wouldn't dare to mess around, otherwise he wouldn't tear me apart if he knew? My father has quite a few sons, but my uncle is the only one who is a blood brother, and I can't do without his support if I want to become the manor master in the future. Tao Zhe spoke out the identity of the master behind Spring Night House. When Tao Ming, who was on the side, heard it, he directly froze. Young lord's uncle? Wasn't that the number 2 person in the Tao family village after the lord of the village? Chapter 1474, Miss Qingwan. Young lord. Since you can't use force on Miss Qinggun, then let her volunteer so that even if your uncle knows about it, he can't do anything to you. After all, the man is unmarried, the woman is unmarried, and the two lovers are in love with each other, so no one can control it. Tao Ming came back to his senses and suggested. But how can I get Miss Qingwan to voluntarily follow me? It's not like we know each other. And people are from the big city, not the kind of little girl who hasn't seen the world, and even though I am the young lord of the Tao family village, I can only speak in this acreage of the Tao family village. Tao Zhe asked bitterly. He was truly awed by Miss Qingwan. Having lived until now, he had never wanted a woman so much. But to be able to become the young manor master. Tao Zhe wasn't a straw man either. He was self-aware. Miss Qinggun came from a large city. She had seen many dignitaries. If he himself was the lord of the Tao family manor, he might still be able to impress him a bit. The name of the young lord of the manor may seem bluffing, but it doesn't have much real power. Besides, as long as one did not become the manor master for a day, one could be replaced. Young lord, with your charisma, as long as you have more contact with Miss Qingguan, I believe she will be conquered by you sooner or later. Tao Ming pandered from the side. No matter what, go. Come with me to meet this Miss Qingguan first. Tao Zhe waved his hand. Although he didn't dare to mess around in this spring night house, there was still nothing wrong with meeting her. As the young lord of the Tao family village, if he didn't even have this kind of face, what else would he call a young lord? Two people then left the private room. They directly found the person in charge of Spring Night House. A middle-aged woman who was still charming. Chun Yang has met young manor master. The person in charge of Spring Lantern House said respectfully. Make arrangements, I want to see Miss Qingguan. Tao Zhe directly opened the door and stated his purpose. Young Master Zhuang. Miss Qingguan has just finished her performance and is resting. Do you think it's better to come back at another time? Chunyang was worried. Don't worry. I'll just meet her, I won't do anything else. But Miss Qingguan has already rested. Young Master Zhuang, can you come back tomorrow? Say that again. Tao Zhe calmly said. Chunyang was shocked in her heart, knowing that this master was angry. At this moment, she was also dumbfounded. Miss Qingguan was invited back by the big boss. The big boss had also instructed that Miss Qingguan could not be forced to do anything she did not want to do. Miss Qingguan could not be upset, or she would be held accountable. Chunyang did not dare to offend Tao Zhe, the young master of the manor. Even more so, she did not dare to go against the words of the big boss. Please don't be angry, young master of the manor. I can't help it, the big boss had personally instructed that Miss Qingguan could not be forced to do anything she was unwilling to do, so I asked the young lord of the manor to forgive me. Chunyang said stiffly. Right now, she could only think of a way to support the young manor master first, and then report the situation to the big boss for him to resolve it. The only one who could suppress the young manor master was the big boss. Otherwise, the entire Spring Night House would have to be lifted by the young banker. Tao Zhe froze at his words. He naturally knew who the big boss was in Chun Yang's words. Wasn't it his own uncle? He did not expect that his uncle would personally inquire about Miss Qingguan's affairs. This was troublesome. He had thought that as long as he didn't mess around, he wouldn't be stabbed to his uncle. Since your big boss has ordered it, I won't make things difficult for you. Didn't he say that he couldn't force Miss Qingguan? I won't force her, you go ask now. Just say that the young master of the Tao family villa, Tao Zhe, wants to see her, and I hope that Miss Qingguan will show some mercy. Tao Zhe slowed down his tone. Well. Young manor master, wait a moment, I will go and ask Miss Qingguan if she is willing. Chunyang hesitated for a moment, but ultimately agreed to Tao Zhe to go and ask Miss Qingguan's opinion. The other young manor master had taken a step back. If she was any more aggressive, it would be too disrespectful. If she wanted to continue to hang around in the Tao family village, young manor master Tao Zhe was definitely one of the people who should not be messed with. Go quickly. I'll be right here waiting for you. Tao Zhe waved his hand after saying this, signaling the other party to go quickly. Chunyang turned around and left. It quickly arrived at the topmost floor of the Spring Night building. This used to be the place where the big boss rested when he occasionally arrived. Now it was given over to Miss Qingguan to live in. It could be seen how much the big boss valued Miss Qingguan. Knock, knock, knock. Chunyang knocked on the door of the room. It was only when she saw Miss Qingguan that she would do so. When she saw the other women of the Spring Night House, she would just push the door in. Who? The voice of Miss Qingguan's maid came from inside the room. I am Chun Yang, there is something I want to see Miss Qingguan. Miss has already rested. Let's talk about anything tomorrow. The maid did not give this Spring Night House responsible face at all. Please also inform Miss Qinger, I really have something urgent to see Miss Qingguan. Chun Yang said in a hurry. Going back just like this, how could she explain to the young manor master? If she offended the young lord of the manor, would she still want to hang out in the Tao family village in the future? Then wait a moment. After servant Qinger finished speaking, the room fell into silence. Crunch. After a while, the door of the room opened directly. The maid, Qinger, stood in the room and said, Miss, please go in. Thank you, Miss Qinger. After Chunyang politely finished speaking, she entered amongst them. The room was very large. One had to know that this was the place where the Tao family estates number 2 would occasionally come to rest. It occupied the topmost floor of the entire Spring Night building. Xing'er led Chunyang through the 2 rooms to where Miss Qingguan rested and respectfully said, "Miss, Chunyang has brought it." "I know, Xing'er, you can go out first." Miss Qingguan softly replied back. "Yes, miss." Xing'er left the room. Only Miss Qingguan and Chunyang remained in the room. At this moment, there was a layer of translucent gauze between the two. Chunyang could only vaguely see a silhouette sitting on the opposite side of the room, but she could not see the exact appearance. Not to mention the others. Even Chunyang, the person in charge of Spring Night House, had never seen Miss Qingguan's true face. I am afraid that only the big boss has seen it. Sometimes Chunyang still wondered what the big boss was doing by inviting such an ancestor back. Chunyang has met Miss Qingguan. Chunyang said politely. "Can I help you?" Miss Qingguan asked. Miss Qingguan, the young master of the Tao family villa, Taozha, has just listened to your tune and was amazed by it. He found me and said that he would like to meet you. I wonder if Miss Qingguan would have the time? After Chunyang asked, she nervously waited for the other party's reply. It would be best if she could say yes. Both sides would be happy. She would also be able to give the young lord of the manor an explanation. Seeing each other was not a big piece of meat. I believe the young master would not dare to do anything wrong. If he doesn't agree, there's nothing he can do. If she had to choose between the young master and the big boss, of course Chunyang would not hesitate to choose the big boss. Not only because the other party was her boss. It was even more so because the big boss's status in the Tao family manor was second only to the manor master. Taozha was more than a notch behind before he became the manor master. Chapter 1475, see you tomorrow. Chunyang, I'm tired today, so I won't see you. You tell young manor master to come tomorrow, I'll make some time to meet. Miss Qingguan thought about it and said. Good. Then I'll have the young lord of the manor come tomorrow, thank you Miss Qingguan. Chunyang let out a sigh of relief and replied. This was already considered a better outcome. What she was afraid of was Miss Qingguan's outright refusal, and that would not end well. After her maid, Xing'er, sent Chunyang away, she entered the room and asked in disbelief, Miss, that what's his name young banker, he's definitely not a good person, why did you agree to meet him? What if he messes up? Isn't he just the young lord of the Tao family village? What's so great about it? Forget it. Since we've arrived at the Tao family village, let's meet this young lord of the village. If he dares to mess around, I'll just abolish him, so that he can never be a man again in this life. If the conversation between the two was heard by Chunyang, it would definitely scare her half to death. A flower whore who sold her art actually said that she wanted to abolish the young lord of the Tao family manor? Does he really have the strength? Or is she just talking out of her ass? Who gave her the guts to do that? Of course, these are all just assumptions. It was unlikely that anyone could have heard the conversation between the two. Chunyang returned downstairs and brought Miss Qingguan's words to the young estate master Taozha. Although Taozha was somewhat reluctant, he reluctantly accepted. He really didn't dare to mess around with a woman that even his uncle valued. Otherwise, once he completely offended his old man, he might not be able to keep his position as the young lord of the manor. Tomorrow is tomorrow. It's better than not being able to see it. When Taozha brought his dog-leg Tao Ming out of the Spring Night House, the correspondent who had already been waiting here immediately went forward and pulled Tao Ming and said, Mr. Tao Ming, your grandfather, Elder Tao Changa, has entrusted me to bring you a letter, please accept it. They didn't dare to enter the Spring Night House and could only wait outside. Tao Ming was first stunned, then accepted the letter and quickly caught up with Taozha. What's wrong, Tao Ming? Taozha asked. Back to young lord. It's a letter from my grandfather. Tao Ming said back. Then open it quickly and take a look. Generally speaking, having a correspondent deliver a letter is a more urgent matter. Oh. Good. Tao Ming opened the letter as he walked. It didn't take long to read all of the contents. What happened? Do you need my help? Taozha was concerned. He was still good to those who followed him. Back to young lord, nothing major. My grandfather said that his old friend came to see him and brought a granddaughter, very beautiful, saying something about how the Tao family village had never seen such a beautiful one and wanted to set us up, asking me to hurry back to meet her. Tao Ming replied honestly. In fact, he didn't really believe his grandfather Tao Changa's words. What Tao family village has never seen such a beautiful one? Is it that exaggerated? Could it be any prettier than Miss Qingguan? Besides, the aesthetics of the older generation. There was definitely a gap between the aesthetics of the older generation and the younger generation. When Tao Zhe heard this, he instantly became interested. It was really Tao Changa who had spoken too much. The Tao family village didn't even have a woman that beautiful. How beautiful could it be? Tao Zhe, as the young lord of the Tao family village, really wanted to see it. See what kind of woman could suppress the entire Tao family village. Oh? There is such a strange woman? It just so happens that I have nothing to do today. I will accompany you on a trip to see if what your grandfather said is exaggerated. Tao Zhe said with interest. Ah? Young lord, you want to go? It's better not to. My grandfather's generation's aesthetics are different from our young people. Don't dirty your eyes. I'll just go back and take a look myself. Tao Ming persuaded. It's fine. It's just a look. I won't laugh at your grandfather, after all, he's an old man. That's fine. Tao Ming was a little reluctant. Now he regretted it. If he had known this, he shouldn't have said the content of the letter just now. Wouldn't it have been better to just say that there was something going on at home? Why bother adding that sentence? Although he succeeded in arousing the young master's interest. But what if he was disappointed in the end? Will he blame himself? It was hard to get to the young lord's side, but he couldn't be kicked off just like that. Since Tao Zhe said he wanted to go, Tao Ming could only agree. As a dog's leg, one must have the consciousness of a dog's leg. One could not disobey their master's decision. The two sat in the carriage and traveled along, soon arriving at Tao Ming's home. Getting off the carriage, Tao Ming came to the front door of his house and knocked hard on the door. Dang dang dang. Grandpa, I'm back, open the door. Not long after, the gate opened. Tao Changa appeared in front of Tao Ming's eyes. Ming Ming is back. Tao Changa said happily. When he saw Tao Zhe beside Tao Ming, this old man was shocked in his heart and asked with some uncertainty, "This is the young estate master?" He had seen the young manor master some years ago, but after not seeing each other for a few years, the other party had changed a bit more, which was why he asked this question. Grandpa, I'll introduce you, this is the Tao family village's young lord of the manor. Is it really the young lord of the manor? Quickly, please come in. Come in quickly. Tao Changa said in a hurry. For Tao family village's young lord of the manor, for Tao Changa, it was definitely an unimaginable big shot. Originally, he was somewhat regretting boasting to his good friend, Dai Wenliang, that his grandson could introduce the young lord of the manor. After all, did not get the consent of the eldest grandson, in case it cannot be done, is not a slap in their own face? Now well. The young manor master came in person. One did not talk nonsense. In this instant, Tao Changa felt very proud. The eldest grandson really gave himself a long face, even letting the young lord of the manor personally come to the door. Just ask how many people in Tao family manor could do that. Welcoming the two into the house, they walked into the living room together. This house had a few underlings other than Tao Changa. His old partner had passed away some years ago. Tao Ming's parents lived in another mansion. To be able to own two mansions in the Tao family village, Tao Changa's family was considered a big family in the eyes of ordinary people. Of course, compared to those really big people, there was still a big gap. It's not enough compared to the top, but more than enough compared to the bottom, right? Grandpa, you said in your letter that your old friend came to see you and brought a very beautiful granddaughter, prettier than all the women in the Tao family estate. Where is it? How come I didn't see it? Tao Ming asked directly to the point. The time spent following the young lord of the manor was not short. He understood the young lord of the manor's temperament. Doesn't like to waste time on such things, so he went straight to the point. Their grandparents and grandchildren have been rushing for several days and have just finished their meal and are resting. I'm going to call them over. Tao Changa returned. Then go quickly. Don't keep young Master Zhuang waiting. Tao Ming urged. Good. I'll go now, young manor master, you and Ming Ming wait here for a moment. Tao Zhe nodded. Although Tao Changa was puzzled in his heart about the purpose of young manor master's visit here, he did not ask much. His status was not qualified enough to ask these questions. Chapter 1476 Astonishing. Dun dun dun. Tao Changa arrived outside the guest room where Dai Wenliang was resting and directly knocked on the door. Dai Gui'er, on the other hand, lived next door, and the two guest rooms were adjacent to each other. Crunch! Soon the room door was opened. As soon as he saw Dai Wenliang, Tao Changa said impatiently, "Elder brother Dai, good thing. There's a big good thing." "What good thing?" "Older brother Tao, could it be that your eldest grandson has returned?" Dai Wenliang asked in confusion. "Right. Ming Ming has returned, and not only that. This time he also brought someone with him." Tao Changa sold a lie. "Who?" Dai Wenliang pursued smoothly. "The young master of Tao family village. It is also the person that you want to see, elder brother Dai. As long as you can convince the young lord of the manor and get his permission, the problem of the survival of the thousands of people in the fishery generation village can be solved completely and easily. You should know that the people that the Tao family villa invites to work from the outside villages are hundreds of thousands of people, and your fishery generation village has only 1,000 or so laborers. You can just casually install them, and the payment you get is enough to sustain the thousands of mouths in the fishery generation village. Of course, the prerequisite is that you have to convince the young estate master." Tao Changa explained. "Really?" Dai Wenliang's eyes lit up and asked excitedly. "Can I still lie to you?" Tao Changa smiled faintly. "Go go go. Quickly go. Let's go see young Lord Zhuang right now." Dai Wenliang was excited. Being able to meet the young lord of the manor was a big step towards success. If one couldn't even meet the person, everything would be empty talk. As for how to go about convincing the young lord of the manor, let's wait until we see the person first. Dai Wenliang pulled Tao Changa and was about to leave. "Wait. That. Or call Gui'er up." Tao Changa said. "Also good. I'll go call Gui'er." Dai Wenliang had no doubts. People's eldest grandson rushed back just to see Gui'er, and the main man definitely had to go. With that, he went to the door of the next room and shouted, "Gui'er, come out quickly, we're going to meet someone." The door of the room did not open, but instead, Dai Gui'er's voice came out from the room. "Grandpa, you guys go. I'm tired and want to rest, I don't want to go." Dai Gui'er, who knew who she was going to see, definitely didn't want to go. Her heart had long been occupied by the man lying in the cellar. Even though no words had been spoken, it didn't stop her from falling for him. Especially after hearing her grandfather analyze that the other party was most likely a great man who could fly, there was no room for anyone else in her eyes. "Nonsense. People came all the way here to see you, how can you not go? How impolite does this make us from Fishing Generation Village look? Moreover, there are still thousands of people in Fishery Generation Village waiting for us to bring good news back. Gui'er, don't be capricious, quickly come out and go with me to meet. It's not like I'm letting you marry right away. Whether it will work out or not is still up to both of you. Grandpa guarantees that he won't force you." Dai Wenliang persuaded. Hearing his words, the door to the room was quickly opened, revealing Dai Gui'er's youthful face. Although she was still young and hadn't grown up yet, she couldn't hide her delicacy. It could be imagined. When Dai Gui'er grew up for a few more years, she would be another scourge-level woman. "Grandpa, this is what you said, you can't force me to marry," the little girl said with puffed cheeks. "Don't worry. When has Grandpa ever forced you?" Dai Wenliang asked back in a serious manner. Only after receiving her grandfather's affirmative answer did the little girl feel relieved and follow the two grandfathers away. Tao family living room. Young banker Tao Zhao and Tao Ming were waiting patiently. It wasn't long before footsteps came from outside. Tao Zhao immediately stood up and looked towards the door. He would like to see. What did the one who could overpower the women of the entire Tao family manor actually look like? When Tao Changa brought Dai Wenliang and Dai Gui'er into the living room, Tao Zhao locked his gaze on Dai Gui'er and couldn't move it any further. Dai Gui'er wasn't too old, she hadn't completely grown up yet, and the clothes on her body were ordinary, but that delicate face couldn't be hidden, and she had also reached a marriageable age. Many of the girls in Fishery Generation Village who were as old as her were married. It wasn't just Tao Zhao. Even Tao Ming, who was on the side, was stunned beyond words. At this moment, his intestines were green with regret. If he had known earlier that the woman Grandpa was talking about was of this class, he definitely wouldn't have said it and aroused the curiosity of young Lord Taoja. Wasn't it good to come back alone? Since Grandpa had allowed himself to come back, he must have gotten the other party's consent as well. A woman like this would have to be gotten as soon as possible, otherwise there would be a lot of people staring. Tao Ming exclaimed in his heart. Blunder ah blunder. It's a pity that there are no regret pills for sale in the world. The moment he saw Dai Gui'er, he knew that the young banker would definitely not let go of the woman in front of him. In other words, what happened next basically had nothing to do with himself. Giving him 10 guts, he wouldn't dare to snatch a woman from the young lord of the manor. Thinking that such a beautiful woman was about to be taken away from him by the young banker, Tao Ming's heart was dripping blood. Young banker, Ming Ming, this is the village head of Fishing Dai Village, Dai Wenliang, and the one next to him is his granddaughter, Dai Gui'er. Elder brother Dai Gui'er, that one is the young lord of Tao family village, Taoja, and the other one is my eldest grandson Tao Ming, who usually follows the young lord and does some odd jobs, deeply appreciated by the young lord. After Tao Chang'e introduced each other once, he didn't forget to praise his grandson. Dai Wenliang meets the young lord of the manor. Dai Gui'er meet young manor master. The grandparents and grandson, one in front of the other, clasped their hands and bent down, shouting respectfully. Although the other party was the young lord of the Tao family village, and couldn't control their fishing generation village. However, the difficulties encountered by Fishery Generation Village today could only be solved by this person. The grandparents and grandchildren also had to lower their stature. Elder Dai and Gui'er don't need to be polite. What young lord of the manor? Quite a few lord of the manor, it's all just a false name, don't mention it. Taoja hurriedly went forward and personally helped Dai Wenliang up. When he was ready to help Dai Gui'er, he didn't realize that the person didn't give him a chance and stood up on his own. It's better for the two old masters to sit down and talk first. Thank you, young Lord Zhuang. Tao Chang'e and Dai Wenliang thanked at the same time. Afterwards, Dai Gui'er sat down together. Young manor master Taoja also returned to his seat. His eyes all looked towards Dai Gui'er from time to time. Obviously, he was mesmerized by the other party's looks. Dai Gui'er was young, and no matter what aspect she was in, she really couldn't compare to Miss Qingguan. But in a few years who would win and who would lose could not be said. At least Dai Gui'er had the strength to arm wrestle with Miss Qingguan. If Miss Qingguan was a ripe peach, then Dai Gui'er was a green fruit. Both had their own advantages. However, comparatively speaking, Miss Qingguan would be more popular. Anyway, no matter what. In young banker Taoja's mind, both were considered women of the same level. He was prepared to take Dai Gui'er first, and then slowly gain Miss Qingguan's favor. Thinking of his own future left and right, one side of a super beautiful woman who was a country that is a city. Taoja couldn't help but tremble with excitement. Chapter 1477, A Difficult Choice. Since he had already met the young lord of the Tao family village, Dai Wenliang also didn't want to waste any more time. The villagers of Fishery Generation Village were packing up their things and preparing to migrate. One could not let them down. In case he didn't return with good news after half a month's time, I'm afraid that the Fishery Generation Village would be gone. So after chatting a few sentences, he went straight to the point. Young manor master. Truth be told, this time, our grandparents and grandchildren came to Tao family village to ask for help, and we also ask that young lord of the manor can help us out. Our entire Fishing Dai village is grateful. Dai Wenliang stood up, bowed to Taoja, and said seriously. Elder Dai, feel free to say whatever you need, as long as I, Taoja, can help, I will definitely do my best. Taoja graciously said back. He was still afraid that the other party didn't have a request. Having a request was just right. This way, he could also put forward his own requirements in the meantime. Both sides were mutually beneficial. How good was that? Young Lord Zhuang, our Fishery Generation Village, with thousands of people, is facing the predicament of running out of food, and I heard elder brother Tao say that the Tao family village is going to hire a lot of people from outside villages to help with the labor, so I want to bring the Fishery Generation Village to the Tao family village to beg for food, and I don't know if the young Lord Zhuang can arrange for us to have a job to make a living? Our Fishery Generation Village, not to mention anything else, is definitely good at fishing. After Dai Wenliang finished speaking in one breath, he waited nervously. The next words of young Lord Zhuang would determine the life and death of their fishing generation village. On the side, Daigua Air was also nervous. The fishery generation village was the place where she grew up. The village was full of people who knew each other and had good relationships. She didn't want to see everyone starve to death. Especially speaking of the old, weak, women and children among them, they no longer had labor and had no food source, so they could only starve to death. Taoja was silent for a while and said in a difficult manner, "Alas! Elder Dai, this matter is very troublesome. It's not that I don't want to help you, I also have more than enough strength." "Ah? Aren't you the young master of Tao family village? How come even you can't do anything about it?" Dai Wenliang asked with slight agitation. It was a matter of life and death for thousands of people in the entire fisherman's generation village. There was no way for him not to be agitated. Coming to Tao family village could be said to be the only hope for Dai Wenliang. If he couldn't even find a way out here, then the old, weak, women and children of Udai village would really have to starve and wait for death. As the village chief of Udai village, even if it wasn't caused by him, Dai Wenliang still had an unshirkable responsibility. "Elder Dai, it's not true that I'm the young lord of Tao family village, I can also arrange you guys in, but nowadays all the laborers that Tao family village needs are already full. If you guys want to go in, you will inevitably have people kicked out. Just in case the people who are kicked out make a scene and stab things into my father, it's going to be troublesome. At that time, even I'm going to be chastised by my father." Taoshi shook his head and explained. His explanation was quite convincing. Anyway, the people present almost all believed it. If Taoshi said that he didn't have that ability, everyone probably wouldn't believe it. Joking aside, if a young lord of the manor couldn't even arrange for a bit of labor to enter the Tao family manor, would he still be called a young lord of the manor? This kind of thing, not to mention the young master. Some of the stewards could do it. However, Taoshi said that he could arrange to go in, that is, he was afraid that the people who were kicked out would make trouble, and in case the lord of the manor knew about it, everyone would not be able to eat and walk. This statement is also indeed possible. What about that? Dai Wenliang asked in a panic. "Alas! Elder Dai, you don't know, I'm only the young lord of the manor, not yet the lord of the manor. I have to be careful about a lot of things, otherwise, once I'm caught in the act, I might not even be able to keep the position of the young lord of the manor. My father has a lot of sons, and everyone has their eyes on me as the young lord of the manor, so I can't afford to make the slightest mistake." Taoshi sighed. Then there is no hope at all? Dai Wenliang looked lost in thought. He couldn't even find a way out of fishing Dai village in Taoji. He really didn't know what to do next. Daigua Air's face was no better. Tao Changda and Tao Ming didn't say anything the entire time. With the young lord of the manor here, it was best to speak less. Seeing that the time was almost up, Taoji changed his tone and said, "It's not that there's no hope at all. If you want to arrange for people from the fisherman's generation village to enter the Tao family manor and take over the jobs of the others, there has to be a reason for what happened, so that even if father traces it back, I'll be able to explain it to father." "How?" "Young master, I know you have a solution, right? I beg you, please help fishing generation village. Otherwise, the thousands of people in our fishing generation village will have to slowly wait for death." Dai Wenliang begged. Taoji pretended to be in a difficult situation on the surface, but in his heart, he smiled slightly. "I do have a solution here, I just don't know if you guys will accept it." "You say it, young manor master. As long as you say it, no matter what you want us to do, we'll accept it. We only ask that you give our fishing generation village a way to live." Dai Wenliang hurriedly said back. "That's good. Since Elder Dai said so, I won't sell myself short. I want Guayar to follow me in the future, so that the fishery generation village is even related to me. At that time when my father traces it down, I can also completely reply to him with this reason, and I believe that his old man won't be able to pick any faults. What do you guys think?" After Taoji finished speaking, he picked up his teacup and took a sip, waiting expressionlessly for the other party's reply. The living room was silent. Everyone understood the meaning of young Lord Zhuang's words. Dai Wenliang, who was still excited, was also silent at this moment. There was a fierce struggle in his heart. Whether to give up the small family for the big family, or to give up the big family for the small family? It had to be said that this was a difficult decision. Tao Ming laughed bitterly at the side, thinking to himself that it was true that young Lord Zhuang still had the means. Not even needing to force himself, others sent themselves to the door. Tao Changa's brain was a bit confused. Goyer was the daughter-in-law that he had prepared for his eldest grandson. Why did young Lord Zhuang suddenly intervene? He also can't express his own opinion. What kind of thing is this? Dai Gui'er was even more so. Her whole heart was tangled together. Tears were falling like broken threads. What should I do? What should she do? Do you really want to marry this young master of the manor in front of you? But if she didn't, how would the thousands of people in Udai village survive? On the one hand, there are the villagers whom he has been familiar with since childhood, and on the other hand, there is his own lifelong matter. Dai Gui'er did not know how to choose. For a while, a needle fell in the living room. No one spoke. Taoja was not in a hurry and just sat there waiting. From time to time, his eyes fell on Dai Gui'er's body, and his heart was hot. Soon he would be able to own this lovely little girl. Even if he had read countless women, he was also attracted by the innocence of Dai Gui'er. After getting his own hands on it, dressing it up properly and cultivating it for a few more years, it would definitely be a woman no worse than Miss Qingguan. Taoja did not worry in the slightest that Dai Wenliang would reject himself. Compared to the lives of thousands of people in the village of Fisherman's Generation, what was a woman worth? And even if he was rejected, he had other methods. In short, there was no woman he could not get his hands on, with the exception of Miss Qingguan. Chapter 1478 Waking Up. 1 hour later. Dai Wenliang and the others set out on the road home. A few of the villagers who had followed could see that the village head and the fruit were both a little off, both of them were gloomy, and didn't dare to ask. Just like this all the way back in silence. In the end, Dai Wenliang still didn't make a decision and left the choice to Gui'er. Because he was not only the village chief of Udai village, he was also Gui'er's grandfather. Under the immense pressure of the life and death of thousands of villagers in the Fishery Generation village, the little girl could only go against her heart and agree to young Lord Taoja. However, she had one condition, and that was that she must arrange for all the villagers with laborers in the village to enter the Tao family village before she would fulfill her promise. That is, from now on, she would follow the young manor master Taoja and be his maid of honor. In this regard, Taoja patted his chest and guaranteed that as long as the villagers of Udai village arrived at the Tao family village, they would immediately be able to enter the Tao family village to labor, and use their labor to obtain remuneration to support the rest of the villagers. As the young lord of the Tao family village, is it not easy to do this little thing? After seeing Dai Wenliang and Dai Gui'er leave, Taoja was also satisfied and went home. Now only need to wait for the villagers of Fishing Generation village to migrate over, will be able to embrace the return of the beauty. Leaving behind the grandparents and grandchildren of Tao Chang'e and Tao Ming with bitter faces. There was young manor master Taoja. They didn't even dare to speak, much less offer their opinions. Taoja also never asked the grandparents and grandchildren if they agreed. In his opinion, like Dai Gui'er, this kind of woman, the entire Tao family manor, only he can be worthy of. What is Tao Ming? A dog's leg is just. Don't want can kick away at any time. Besides, the woman Taoja has his eye on, is it something that any cat or dog can get their hands on? The matter ended here. Both sides are considered to have gotten the results they wanted. The only one who felt sad was Dai Gui'er, the party involved. She sacrificed herself to find a way to live for the thousands of villagers of Udai village. When the villagers of Fishing Generation village came to put down roots around Tao family village, she would completely lose her freedom and become a betting maid beside the young banker Taoja. With Dai Gui'er's status, she was not even qualified to marry Tao Ming. A young manor master like Tao Ming, if he wanted to marry, he would have to marry someone who was a good match and had the ability to help him. It was impossible to make a big deal out of marrying a woman from a lowly background. Not even if the woman was beautiful. The status was not equal and would be ridiculed by outsiders. In addition to Dai Gui'er, Dai Wencheng felt bad in his heart as well. The granddaughter that he had always regarded as a treasure would soon have to serve another man. Although this was a woman's necessary path, Gui'er was clearly unwilling to accept it so soon. Or rather, she was not willing to accept this man. But slowly, Dai Wenliang figured it out. If the Fisherman's Generation village could not find a way to survive, then it would be very difficult for him to live with such a young girl as Gui'er. He is already old, long ago no longer the courage of the year. Gui'er is so beautiful, and if she is out in the open, she will definitely be spied on by someone who has a heart. Just like this time. Following young Lord Taoja might be a good choice. Although there was no name, at least there was no worry about food or drink, no need to worry about going hungry. It would also help the thousands of villagers in the Fishery Generation Village. Sort of a good homecoming. 7 days later, the group returned to the Fishery Generation Village. For the entire 7 days, Dai Guier didn't say a word, a stark contrast to when they went, completely different people. Dai Wanliang knew that she hadn't figured it out yet, and couldn't accept such a result. But what can be done? All promised the young estate master, at this time want to back out are too late. And if you really back out, what about the thousands of villagers in the fishing village? Have labor force can still barely live, those old and weak women and children can only wait for death. After returning to Fisherman's Village, Dai Wanliang asked a few of his subordinates to notify the village people that an emergency villagers meeting should be held immediately. There was not much food left in the village, so he had to hurry to Tao Family Village as soon as possible and find a place to stay around. Generally speaking, the journey from Yudai Village to Tao Jiazhuan was only about 7 days. But with thousands of villagers migrating together on such a large scale, the time would definitely be much longer, at least 10 days or more. That's why time is tight and there can't be any delay. Otherwise, by the time the food was gone and they hadn't arrived at Tao Family Village yet, then they could only go hungry. Young people starving for 2 days was nothing, but small children and old people with weak bodies would definitely not be able to stand it. Dai Guier didn't go to the emergency meeting, but quietly came to the cellar alone. Looking at Lin Dong, who was still unconscious on the bed, her tears once again flowed indisputably. Then she fell on Lin Dong's body and let out a loud cry. Woo woo. For the past few days, she had only shed tears silently, not daring to cry out for fear of being heard by her grandfather, but now she was finally able to have a good cry. Dai Guier wanted to cry out all the grievances in her heart. In a short while, the tears had already soaked Lin Dong's chest. Brother, why don't you wake up? If you don't wake up, Guier will have to leave. In the future, I don't know if I will have the time to come back to see you. Perhaps this goodbye is to never see each other again for the rest of your life. Guier so wants to talk to you and listen to your voice, but unfortunately, this wish is destined to be unattainable. But not seeing is also good, because the fruit will soon be married. See, also don't know how to face. Brother, don't worry, the fruit will always remember you, take care of you. This period of time is the happiest days in the life of the fruit. Every day open your eyes and close your eyes. In the mind is your appearance. I think this is the feeling of the heart. I will bury this feeling in the deepest part of my heart, and wait until I am old in the future, and then slowly take it out to remember. I know that we are not from the same world. Grandpa said that brother, you are a flying great man. I really want brother to take me to fly once when you wake up. Dai Guier lay on Lin Dong's chest, sobbing while talking to herself. It was estimated that she also thought that Lin Dong would not wake up. It had been more than half a full year. A normal person who slept for such a long period of time without eating or drinking would have starved to death long ago. If not for the fact that Lin Dong was still breathing. The grandparents and grandson might have found a place to bury him. Dai Guier is still continuing to cry. It seems to be to say all the thoughts in her heart. Unbeknownst to the man underneath her, his eyes had already opened at this time. Lin Dong was confused when he woke up. After all, he had suffered a heavy blow to his mental strength after detonating his detachment dozens of times in a battle with the heavenly emperor-level powerhouse, Emperor Yuan, several years ago. One had to fall asleep and hibernate to recover. Now that he had woken up, he was not completely awakened. It was just that he subconsciously felt that it was not good to keep sleeping, and in case he encountered danger, he would not even have the ability to resist. So he first awakened a part of his spiritual power, which was used to maintain the normal functioning of his body. This way, he would at least be able to know what was happening in the outside world, and would be able to respond in time if he encountered danger. Chapter 1479, Memory Vacancy. Lin Dong listened to the words spoken by the woman lying on top of him. The other party addressed herself as a brother. However, listening to the words, it seemed that he was not a real brother. He only remembered that his name was Lin Dong. As for other memories, he did not remember them as his spiritual power had not fully awakened yet, and only a very small portion of it had awakened to maintain the normal functioning of his body. Without disturbing the woman's crying, Lin Dong just quietly acted as a qualified listener. As Dai Guier said more and more words, Lin Dong grasped some of the key points. For example, the relationship between himself and the other party. He guessed that it should be a couple. And he did not know what caused him to fall asleep for a long time. The other party, on the other hand, had been taking care of himself silently. Now the other party seemed to have an unavoidable hardship to leave. One can only continue to sleep here. This time when he looked at himself, he had also come to say goodbye before he cried so sadly. Lin Dong tried his hardest to recall everything from the past, however it was of no use. Other than his name, he did not remember anything else. After crying for half a day, Dai Gui'er felt that it was almost time for her to leave. By the time she placed her hands on Lin Dong's chest and supported her body to sit up, she saw the other party's face. Two bright eyes were staring at her. The eyes of both sides locked together. In this instant, Dai Gui'er was confused. Her mind went blank. Lin Dong did not know what to say at this time either. The main reason was that he could not even remember the other party's name. The two of them stared wide-eyed like this for a whole minute before Lin Dong took the lead and said, "Thank you." "When did you wake up?" Dai Gui'er stammered and asked. "Just woke up for a while." Lin Dong replied. "Are you hungry? I will go get you food." Dai Gui'er looked a little flustered. "Thanks. I am not hungry." With Lin Dong's half-step heavenly emperor-level flesh, he had long been able to do without eating. Then are you uncomfortable anywhere? I'll go and find my grandfather to come over right away." "Nope. It feels like the body is fine. It's just that I might have slept for a long time and I don't remember anything other than remembering that my name is Lin Dong." Lin Dong said truthfully. "Ha? You lost your memory?" Dai Gui'er's eyes widened. "Sort of. But I think it should be temporary, soon I will be able to remember." Lin Dong brother, wait a moment, I'm going to call Grandpa and have him give you a look." Dai Gui'er quickly got up and left after saying that. She really did not know how to look at Lin Dong. Especially since she had just said so many words from her heart, how much had the other party heard? Turning around, Dai Gui'er's small heart puffed and puffed. Two blushes appeared on her face. It turned out that his name was Lin Dong. Not only is he handsome, but his voice is also good. Out of the cellar, Dai Gui'er searched the house one by one, but did not find grandfather Dai Wenliang. Just as she was about to go out and search, Dai Wenliang came back from outside. "Guar!" Dai Wenliang shouted. "Grandpa, come with me, I'm looking for you for something." Dai Gui'er said anxiously. "What's wrong?" "Gui'er, what happened?" Dai Wenliang was puzzled. "Brother Lin Dong has woken up. He only remembers his name now, he doesn't remember anything else. Grandpa, you quickly go and take a look." After Dai Gui'er finished speaking, she pulled Dai Wenliang and headed in the direction of the cellar. Her words left Dai Wenliang confused. Brother Lin Dong? Who was it? Waking up? Wait. It couldn't be? Dai Wenliang was shaken. Shocked, he asked, "Gui'er, are you saying that the man we rescued from the fishing generation lake is awake?" His name is Lin Dong, he doesn't remember the rest himself, it seems like he has lost his memory. Grandpa, go and take a look. Dai Gui'er replied as she walked. As soon as Dai Wenliang heard that it was really the man who had woken up, he hurriedly quickened his pace and followed Dai Gui'er to the cellar. Originally, he thought that Gui'er had been overly sad and was hallucinating, but when he saw the man sitting on the bed, he truly believed it. This kid actually really woke up? Sleeping for more than half a year and he was fine? It was simply a miracle. Worthy of being a great man who can fly. It was fine even if he did not eat or drink for more than half a whole year. At this time, Lin Dong turned around to look at the two. Many thanks to the two of you for taking care of me during this period of time. Because of certain reasons, there are some gaps in my memories, I still don't know how to address the two of you? Lin Dong politely said. Brother Lin Dong. My name is Dai Gui'er, this is my grandfather Dai Wenliang, this is the fishing Dai village. Dai Gui'er introduced. So it's Miss Gui'er and Grandpa Dai, thank you both for taking care of me. Brother Lin Dong, no need to thank you. In fact, we didn't take much care of you, you don't eat, don't drink, don't poop, your body is still so clean even though it hasn't been clean for half a year, it's just that it took a bit of effort to transport you here. Dai Gui'er said. I wonder if Miss Gui'er can tell me about the past. Yes. So Dai Gui'er recounted the general course of events. In the end, Dai Wanliang added some more, saying something about how it was because of Lin Dong's arrival that the fish in the fishery generation lake had almost died out. The fishery generation village no longer had a source of food and was about to run out of food in front of them, and was preparing to relocate. He didn't care about those. The difficulties encountered by the fishery generation village had to be told. If this kid could solve the problems encountered by the fishery generation village, they wouldn't have to migrate and Guire wouldn't have to serve Shaozhuang. All will be happy. So that's how it is. Apologies. Lin Dong has caused trouble for the fishery generation village. Lin Dong was silent for a while and said with a hint of apology. He did not expect it to actually be such a situation. He himself had fallen from the sky and landed in the fishery generation lake. It turned out that he and this pair of grandparents and grandchildren did not know each other before, and he was not a couple with Dai Guire. Then why would she lie on her chest and say those words? Could it be that when she took care of herself every day, she fell in love over time? Lin Dong shook his head, feeling somewhat amused. It was possible to have feelings for a plant person. One had to say that this cute little girl was also an oddball. Apologizing is not necessary, but if you can. Dai Wenlian was just about to ask Lin Dong to help solve the problem of food shortage in the fishery generation village. Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Dai Guire. Grandpa, brother Lin Dong has just awakened and has lost his previous memories. You should still help him check his body first. See if you can help him regain his memory. Good. Dai Wenlian nodded his head, walked to the bed and began to examine Lin Dong. Lin Dong did not resist either. He also wanted to recover his memory earlier. To see where he had come from and where he was going. Why had he landed in the fishery generation lake? After some examination, Dai Wenliang found that Lin Dong's body was twice as good. There was no problem whatsoever, it was too good to be true. As for why he had lost his memory, with his medical skills, he was still unable to find the problem.